A man had just returned home and was surprised when he saw an orb-like presence floating in the living room. The protagonist, Utamaro Kitagawa, most commonly known by his friends as Maro, entered his classroom and greeted both Higashino Shota and Nishida Yoichi. Yoichi shared how Shota had lent him a video with full scenes of monster girls. Shota told Maro that he was looking forward to watching the video but was eventually disappointed upon learning that the monster girls were old ladies. Yoichi became mad at Shota and clarified that the girls were 20 years old and above. When Maro heard more from Yoichi about the video, he became excited and accepted Shota's offer to lend him the video. Shota then interrupted the two, mentioning how he believes that women above 20 years old are considered old ladies. The conversation sparked a fight between Shota, who wished to soon be intimate with an older woman, and Yoichi, who is more into loli-type girls. Yes, FBI this guy right here. Seeing how their brewing fight was causing a scene in the classroom, Maro immediately called their attention and hinted that they were causing a disturbance. As Yoichi and Shota stared at Maro, they told him how he doesn't have a specific type of woman he likes. The two also mentioned how Maro was lucky since he has a very cute 5th grade sister back home. As the three were talking about how monsters don't age, Maro shared his wish of having an older sister who would take care of him even if he gets old. Maro was then advised to become an adventurer so that he could achieve his dream someday. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted when a man named Minamiyama Eiji entered the classroom. After Eiji and Maro saw each other, Eiji was bombarded with questions. Seeing Eiji changing, others felt like they became part of the lower caste. For students, titles carry a lot of status. Examples include the ace captain for club activities, amateur models who appear in fashion magazines, children of celebrities, and the president of the student council. 20 years ago, labyrinths appeared all over the world, along with cards that can summon monsters that could only be obtained inside the labyrinths. Using the cards, a person can conquer the labyrinth, and thus a new profession called adventurer was created. For people who were born after the labyrinths appeared, they couldn't imagine doing anything else. In the era of becoming an adventurer, they find it very easy to become one with the right amount of money. However, the money required is too high a hurdle for those who are not wealthy. To become an adventurer, one must pass 2 requirements: paying the registration fee of 100,000 yen and having a D-rank card. Everyone wishes to become an adventurer, but becoming one is just too costly, even for a high school student. Eiji, who was born to a wealthy family, became an adventurer. In the blink of an eye, Maro felt that he was now part of the lower caste group. Eiji now acts as if he had never hung out with Maro and the others. Maro wanted to express his feelings to Eiji, but since Eiji was now an adventurer, Maro was scared to approach someone who was at the top of the school caste. However, Maro thinks that everything will soon change, since moving forward he would also become an adventurer. Labyrinths appeared all over the world, in the seas, mountains, deserts, middle of the roads, and even on rooftops. The labyrinths appear completely at random, far more extensively than predicted. Countries around the world immediately dispatched troops to investigate them. It turned out that labyrinths contained monsters that seemed to have sprung out of fairy tales, games, and other fictitious stories. An abundance of rare metals, including completely unknown metals, was found along with mysterious sets of tools and artifacts of magic. The world then rejoiced as they now had drugs that could regenerate lost body parts and heal diseases once thought difficult to cure. Magical tools that seemed to be from a fairy tale fascinated people, especially the ones called magic stones, dropped by the monsters, which are used as fuel, fertilizer, etc. The discovery of myriad uses brought about a worldwide economic boom. The only thing that has ever destroyed an army armored with modern weaponry is the monsters in the labyrinth, later named deadly monsters. The army was helpless against the monsters, whose defenses made their attacks ineffective. Many developed countries pulled out of the maze, and because of that, the search for the labyrinths was put on hold. The labyrinth fever seemed to have subsided, but 6 months after the labyrinths were sealed, the tragedy later known as First Anglemore happened. Monsters flooded out of the labyrinths and attacked everyone. During the disaster, the monsters caused the most damage. Fortunately for humanity, the monsters were weak to the light of day. After the monsters disappeared, the nations learned that only places where the monsters overflowed were in the countries that had their labyrinths sealed. This led to one hypothesis, that one must keep hunting monsters on a regular basis or the labyrinth will overflow with monsters. However, that was not all they learned. The First Anglemore also led to a significant discovery. Cards of unknown use with their images on them were dropped by monsters on rare occasions. These cards are later known as monster cards. To use the cards, one must drop their blood on them. By believing strongly in the cards, the monsters would then get summoned and listen to every command of the user. The cards also had an unexpected surprise. During combat, the summoner takes no damage while the monster is summoned, because the summoned monster takes all the damage. This led to only one conclusion, that it was possible for ordinary people to explore the labyrinth. Maro visited the guild to register as an adventurer. The receptionist informed Maro of the requirements needed to register, and mentioned that he would need his guardian's consent if he was underage. When Maro told the receptionist that he had everything except for the card, the receptionist recommended he head to the upper floor where he could purchase one. Once on the upper level, Maro was greeted by a man named Shigeno, who was there to help him purchase his card. As they headed to the upper floor, Maro was mesmerized by the sight of numerous cards displayed behind a glass wall. After Shigeno secured a booth for them, he asked for Maro's name to address him properly. Before helping Maro purchase his first card, Shigeno provided more details about the cards and the rules for using them. He shared that summoned monsters could choose to disobey their master's orders, which frightened Maro. However, Shigeno reassured him that the monsters couldn't harm their masters. Since monsters have unique personalities, they have the will to choose what they want to do. Shigeno explained that if a monster was abandoned, the guild could reset the monster's levels and memories, making the card available to another user. However, even with a reset, the monster's personality would remain the same. After informing Maro that rebellious monsters make it difficult for the summoner to use them, Maro asked what happened to the most rebellious cards. Shigeno responded that they wouldn't do anything bad but would just have a lower price. After discussing monsters and cards, Shigeno asked Maro what card he planned to purchase and if he had enough money. Maro panicked and handed over the money, but Shigeno told him he could pay at the end before giving Maro the list of D-ranked cards. Maro became excited after seeing the cards. Female monster cards cost over 5 million yen, while unpopular cards cost around 1 million yen. When Maro told Shigeno he wanted to try his luck and asked for a card worth 1 million yen, Shigeno showed a worried expression and told Maro they indeed had a card worth 1 million yen. Shigeno explained that purchasing a card pack could give Maro a chance to obtain a rare card. But getting a rare card was like winning a lottery prize. Shigeno suggested Maro try his luck with the D-rank card since it offered a 30% chance, whereas the rare cards only gave a 1% chance. Shigeno could tell that Maro only had the budget for one card pack, and reminded him that if he couldn't draw a D-rank card, he wouldn't be able to register. Despite this, Maro was determined to take his chances. Seeing how Maro had saved up so much money to buy a card, Shigeno shared that the card packs they had were unwanted by adventurers. The popular and easy-to-use cards were placed on the shelf, but the cards that many didn't want were in the packs. Maro appreciated Shigeno's honesty but remained unfazed, and told Shigeno he had made up his mind. Seeing that he couldn't persuade Maro, Shigeno showed him their card packs, and told him he was free to pick whichever pack he wanted. One had a 30% chance of getting a D-ranked card, while the C rank had less than a 1% chance. The 70% were known to be trash, and 1 million yen would end up worthless. During the week, Maro worked 2 jobs, one at a supermarket and another at a moving company. Maro had never worked a job before and was scolded for making mistakes. He also had a hard time getting his parents to accept his decision, but after many discussions, Maro finally gained their permission. Maro doubted whether he could sacrifice another year to earn 1 million yen if he failed to get a D-rank card. After choosing his card pack, Shigeno told him to open it. Maro's cards were an F-ranked Goblin, an E-ranked Kobold, and a D-ranked QC. Seeing the D-rank card, Maro thought he could finally become an adventurer. Wanting to push his luck, Maro checked out the other cards he had. He finally saw a monster girl with a D rank but had mixed feelings since the monster was a ghoul. Seeing Maro's expression, Shigeno asked what was wrong. Maro, surprised, responded that there was no problem. Maro realized he was fortunate to obtain a monster girl, and that drawing a cute C-ranked monster girl was the limit of what he could wish for. After drawing his last 2 cards, Maro's eyes widened in disbelief as he drew a C-rank monster girl card named Zashiki Nobu. After purchasing his first summon card, Maro wondered how his friends would react once he showed them his monster girl card. Shota then surprised Maro and asked him why he was in such a good mood. Maro tried to feign ignorance, but Shota could tell something was up since Maro's grin already gave him away. When Maro was about to tell Shota the truth, they were suddenly interrupted by Yoichi. After greeting the two, Yoichi expressed how it was fate that led the 3 to meet up before school. When Shota asked Maro what he was about to say earlier, Maro decided not to reveal the truth and told Shota it was nothing. As the 3 were about to enter their classroom, they were curious about the noise inside. Maro was surprised to learn that another of his classmates had become an adventurer. IG and his new adventurer buddy couldn't wait to enter the labyrinth after school. Maro was shocked as he felt someone had beaten him to revealing they had become an adventurer. While Yoichi and Shota wondered what was going on with their friend, Maro shivered in fear of embarrassment at the thought of telling everyone he had become a hunter as well. Maro's mind was filled with scenarios where no one cared that he was an adventurer. Not wanting his fears to come true, Maro wondered what he should do. Shota then remarked that it wasn't a big deal to become a 1-star adventurer, which surprised Maro as he realized his cards still put him above Ono. Using his rare card, Maro vowed to become a 3-star adventurer no matter what before the year ended. After class, Maro went to the labyrinth. Upon arriving at the convenience store, Maro was shocked to see that it had more medical supplies and food than normal convenience stores. Many labyrinths take the shape of dungeon marts, and by going to the back of the dungeon mart, one would find the labyrinth entrance. As Maro finally saw what a labyrinth entrance looked like, he wondered what it was made of since it was just smoke. After touching the labyrinth entrance, Maro closed his eyes as he was suddenly engulfed in black smoke. Upon opening his eyes, he was amazed at what he saw. Seeing daylight, Maro assumed that inside the labyrinth was a different world. Based on the information given to Maro, the sun would always stay where it was, meaning it would always be noon in the labyrinth. If the labyrinth was evening, it would stay evening, and the same applied to the weather. Maro visited the labyrinth to summon Zashiki during the daytime. However, the environment was too hot. When Maro remembered to call his monster, he also recalled that each labyrinth has its own summoning limit, and a user could only summon 2 monsters at one time. Zashiki is known to be a god of fortune, but if abandoned, it would bring misfortune. Each card has 2 types of skills, inherent skills and acquired skills. In the case of Zashiki, she has the ability to give good or bad fortune to enemies and allies, as well as hiding and healing abilities. Zashiki's acquired skill is a simple offensive magic spell, but the problem is that both of her skills could also harm her. The first skill, Zero Existence, weakens Zashiki's abilities if she doesn't want to exist, preventing her from showing her true powers. The second skill, Closed Heart, means cards with this type of skill won't listen to their master's orders, and if forced, the ability would decline. Maro could tell that Zashiki was a problem but still had hope since she was a C-rank monster. Maro also knew that even if Zashiki wouldn't listen to him, she would not hesitate to defend herself in front of a monster. After summoning Zashiki, Maro was taken aback to see her squatting on the ground. Zashiki then approached Maro and asked him what he was looking at. Reminded of Sheno's words about a monster's personality, Maro did not expect Zashiki to have a delinquent attitude. Upon learning that Maro was her new master, Zashiki told Maro that he had acquired a problem monster. However, Maro's response surprised Zashiki. Maro told Zashiki that he knew she would be difficult to use, but after obtaining a rare card, he felt lucky to have her. Pointing at Maro, Zashiki liked his attitude and wondered how long it would last. As Zashiki vanished in front of Maro, he wondered if he had managed to get his feelings across to her. Maro then pulled out another card as he prepared to summon another monster girl. Ghouls and undead monsters appear in the labyrinth as devouring demons. Although the monster girl Maro acquired was a ghoul, he still thought of it as a pretty good card since it was ranked D. The ghoul is a living dead with congenital skills. With the ghoul's inherent skills, she can resist abnormal status but takes a hit on her intelligence, a passive skill that is active until the ghoul's head is destroyed. The other inherent skill is called corpse eating, which is the ability to eat corpses. By eating others, the ghoul would be able to heal herself of any damage she took from battling. Checking the ghoul's acquired skills, Maro liked that his monster girl has the skill of absolute order and sexual technique. However, Maro's problem was that his monster girl was a ghoul. After summoning Ghoul, Maro was surprised when he couldn't smell anything from her. From Maro's perspective, it was the biggest drawback for the undead. Seeing how perfect Ghoul's figure was, Maro still couldn't get over that the monster girl was a ghoul. Maro still didn't lose hope, hoping that one day Ghoul would evolve into a vampire. Maro then ordered Ghoul to follow him. However, Ghoul remained in one place as if she did not hear anything. Out of nowhere, Maro heard a noise which alarmed him. After turning and seeing Ghoul still in the same place, Maro later realized that Ghoul wouldn't move unless he gave an order. After giving the order and seeing Ghoul slowly following him, Maro could already tell that his training would be tough. While walking under the heat of the sun, Maro asked Zashiki if there were enemies around and if it was safe. When Zashiki asked why she had to answer Maro's question, she was surprised when Maro responded that he assumed they were friends. After ordering Ghoul to stop, Zashiki suddenly appeared in front of them. Zashiki then made it clear to Maro that she hates humans and that looking at Maro and Ghoul makes her want to vomit. After telling Maro that she will not help him, Zashiki reminded Maro again how she is a defective monster before vanishing. Seeing Zashiki's behavior, Maro wondered what her previous owner did to her. While wondering if he should summon QC, Maro opened a chocolate bar after drinking some water. As Maro was about to eat the chocolate bar, he was surprised when Zashiki suddenly appeared in front of him. Curious as to what Maro was about to eat, Zashiki asked him what it was. After explaining to Zashiki what a chocolate bar is, Maro asked if she wanted it. Zashiki tried to act differently, but seeing the chocolate bar up close, her eyes started to gleam. Believing that the chocolate bar was one of Maro's ploys, Zashiki told Maro that she's not going to fall for it. Realizing that persuading Zashiki was becoming difficult, Maro tried taking a bite of the chocolate bar. Enraged at Maro's actions, Zashiki decided to leave. Eating his chocolate bar, Maro was disappointed in himself for missing his chance but was still glad that he now knew what Zashiki likes. Meanwhile, Ghoul, who was standing behind Maro, was suddenly snatched by something. When Maro turned around, he was surprised that Ghoul was already being eaten by a wolf monster. While Ghoul was being pinned down by the wolf, a blast came out of nowhere and blasted one of the wolf's limbs. The blast came from Zashiki. After regaining his senses, Maro ordered Ghoul to fight back. Hearing the order, Ghoul's eyes widened and she immediately crawled towards the injured wolf. As Ghoul pinned the wolf down and ate it, Maro could not help but feel disgusted after witnessing Ghoul eating. Maro appreciated Zashiki's help and offered her a chocolate bar as a reward. Zashiki's eyes showed a happy reaction at first but immediately changed to her usual attitude. After accepting the chocolate bar, Zashiki told Maro not to get the wrong idea. Seeing how Zashiki really likes chocolate, Maro realized that he may need to prepare more sweets moving forward. Maro then approached Ghoul and ordered her to fight back whenever she got attacked by the enemy. Seeing Ghoul up close, Maro noticed that the bite mark the wolf caused had now vanished, which Maro realized was the effect of the corpse eating. Seeing how Zashiki was chowing down on the chocolate bar, Maro asked if it was delicious, which surprised Zashiki and she responded that it was nothing special. After swallowing the food, Zashiki turned around and told Maro that she would help him again if Maro gave her more candy. Maro laughed, realizing that giving her candy was all it took for Zashiki to follow him. As Maro looked forward to working with Zashiki, he extended his hand for a handshake. However, Zashiki suddenly swatted his hand. Zashiki then told Maro not to get carried away before vanishing again. Staring at his hand, Maro thought that he would get along with his monsters better than he thought. Back at school, Maro and his friends exuded a competitive aura. The three played a game which resulted in Maro losing. As his friends teased him, Maro was frustrated, remembering Eiji and how they used to be a group of 4. Forgetting about Eiji, Maro was now determined to look for another partner. However, during one of their classes, Maro couldn't believe that he was the only one without a partner. Hearing how his classmates pitied him, Maro blamed his luck for losing the game and ending up alone. When a student named Narakin raised his voice and asked if anyone needed a teammate, Maro scowled, as he did not like Narakin for hanging out with Eiji. When Narakin saw Maro, the two exchanged disappointed looks. When Maro noticed Eiji giving him a teasing look, Maro hated the feeling. Narakin slapped Maro's back, reminding him not to get in his way. Maro could already tell that the day would not be his best. After class, Maro felt pathetic. The reason why Narakin acted so cocky towards Maro was because Maro was at the bottom of the caste. Narakin could only bully the weak and feared those stronger than him like Ono and Eiji. Maro was now even more determined to get to the top and get back at those who had looked down on him. When Yoichi and Shota invited Maro to go to karaoke, Maro declined and left the two. Maro returned to the labyrinth and planned to try summoning a new card. The card Maro was holding was the monster named QC. It is a Scottish dog fairy that protects fairies. According to legend, QC can move silently. Checking through QC's skills, Maro was happy to know that one of the skills was obedience to the master. However, Maro's problem was that QC's weakness was cowardice. Cowardice as a weakness shows as extremely timid and battle-averse, with status halved in battle. Maro did not want to think ahead of himself and wondered if QC was good at fighting. After Maro summoned the monster QC, he was immediately greeted by it. Amazed at how big QC was, Maro was speechless and forgot to respond to QC. After regaining his senses, Maro responded to QC and then proceeded to summon Ghoul. Wondering if Ghoul remembered his orders from the day before, Maro asked Ghoul to say what he had said yesterday. As Ghoul repeated Maro's words one by one, Maro was happy since Ghoul remembered everything. Maro then asked Ghoul to forget what he had said and follow his new orders. After giving Ghoul her new orders, Maro wondered if it was enough but was very glad that Ghoul had a good memory. As the group was about to begin, Maro asked QZ to search around. QZ, surprised, hesitantly told Maro that it could scout. Sensing doubt towards Ki, Maro still counted on him to do the job. As QZ used his nose to smell danger, Maro checked if Ghoul was following him. Maro was relieved to learn that Ghoul was following his orders. However, Maro only hoped that his orders didn't contradict each other. After some time, QZ found the scent of enemies and immediately warned Maro. Nervous, Maro knew that he would be fine since he had given Ghoul the new orders. Maro assumed that QZ would be dead weight but still hoped that it would fight back. The initial battle power for a D-rank monster is less than 50. Knowing that the first floor power was just around 10 to 20, Maro felt confident facing his enemies. When Maro finally encountered his enemies, which were goblins riding a wolf, he was surprised when the goblins suddenly initiated the attack. Ghoul sensed danger and charged at the goblin in an instant. However, she suddenly stopped, which puzzled Maro. Ghoul stood still while the goblins hit her with their clubs. Wondering what happened to his orders, Maro considered if his orders contradicted each other. Seeing Ghoul in danger, Maro immediately ordered Kusi to save Ghoul. However, Kusi was too afraid to move. Maro shouted at Kusi, which ended up making Kusi cover its ears in fear. Maro felt disappointed, as he had assumed that Kusi would at least try to fight back. Seeing his two monsters not fighting back, Maro wondered what he should do next. Left with no other options, Maro decided to give up on Kyusei and summoned Zashiki. He immediately begged Zashiki to help Ghoul. However, she refused. Stuck in despair, Maro remembered that Zashiki only works if given candy. When Maro offered sweets to Zashiki, she immediately turned around and told him that she was not in the mood. Frustrated, Maro took a baton out of his bag. He then rushed toward the goblin and hit it right on the head. However, instead of causing damage, Maro only made the goblin angrier. Frightened, Maro ordered Ghoul to kill the wolves one by one, starting with the one biting her leg. As Ghoul was busy devouring the wolves, Maro was left to deal with the two goblins. He was able to protect himself from the goblins' attack but ended up letting go of his weapon. When the two goblins were about to pounce on Maro, they were suddenly killed. Surprised, Maro realized that Zashiki had taken care of the goblins. Turning around to check on Ghoul, Maro felt relieved after seeing Ghoul all healed up. Exhausted, Maro finally experienced what being an adventurer really was, and wondered if he could continue being one. When Zashiki approached him, he thanked her for the help. As Maro was about to give Zashiki some sweets, he was surprised when she suddenly grabbed his collar and asked him why he fought. When Maro responded, Zashiki told him that his answer was wrong. She then asked why he tried to save a ghoul and put himself in harm's way. Zashiki wanted to know why Maro risked his life for expendable cards. Maro responded that he just wanted to buy time until Ghoul could recover, and that he was not in any danger. Although Ghoul was expendable in Zashiki's eyes, for Maro, Ghoul was important to him. After swatting away Zashiki's hand, he told her that he was tired and planned to head home. Zashiki then told Maro to stop, as she still hadn't received any candy as her reward. Speechless, Maro left the labyrinth after his first fight. Arriving home, Maro was greeted by his younger sister. When she asked what happened in the labyrinth, Maro confidently shared how he killed a lot of monsters. Amazed by her brother, Maro's sister asked if he had already cleared the labyrinth. After telling her that he hadn't cleared it yet, Maro's sister left to watch the Monkoro game. Upon opening the door, she was approached by their dog named Maru. Jealous, Maro tried calling for Maru's attention. However, Maru turned around and ignored him. After Maro was greeted by his mother, she went ahead and reheated the food since Maro still hadn't eaten. Maro's parents knew that he wanted to be an adventurer. Although they weren't happy with his decision, they gave him permission to continue after seeing that he was serious. After reheating the food, Maro's mother told him to eat his dinner. After some time, Maro's father also arrived. Seeing Maru approach him, he tried interacting with Maru but ended up receiving the same treatment as Maro did. While Maru was being petted by Maro's sister, Maro's attention was called as the Monkoro game was starting. Monkoro, or Monster Coliseum, is a new pastime that has emerged since the appearance of the Labyrinth. It is a popular program that pits monsters summoned by adventurers against each other. Seeing how the monsters on the other side were too many, Maro's sister wondered if the fight could still be considered one-on-one. Maro explained that it was Fulcus, the Devil Knight's skill, which is allowed. Seeing the monsters fight each other, it was then announced on television how the user Kumao takes Fulcus as a name card. When a normal card dies, it disappears, but a named card leaves behind data about itself in the form of a soul card even after death. By consuming a card of the same race as the named card, they can be resurrected with their status, personalities, and appearances intact. However, a card used for resurrecting a named card can no longer be initialized as it loses its value as an asset. There are two cases in which adventurers name their cards. Either the card has skills that are very hard to lose, or the adventurer has grown attached to that card. Maro wondered if a day would come when he would have to name his cards as well. Maro had just arrived at school and greeted his friends with a good morning. Before becoming an adventurer, Ig was also Maro's friend. Since it was about time for club activities to start, Shota asked the three which clubs they planned on joining. Shota only wanted to join clubs that didn't involve sports, while Eiji and Maro did not feel like joining any. Since the two had no plans to join a club, Shota wondered if they were working part-time jobs. Some shared their interest in getting a part-time job but felt that they were not yet ready. When they learned that it was a good experience to get a part-time job at least once in high school, Ig suggested becoming an adventurer. The three were speechless for a few seconds, then assumed that Eiji was joking and shared how they didn't have the money and were frightened by what might happen inside the labyrinth. When Ig was asked if he was interested in becoming an adventurer, he responded that he wasn't. Shota then changed the topic and asked the three who the prettiest girl in their class was. The group unanimously voted for a student named Shinomiya as the number one. After deciding on the first, the group started to suggest who the second one might be. Yoichi liked a student named Sakurai, while Higashino preferred an older student named Osato. When Maro suggested the name Ushikura, both Yoichi and Shota immediately assumed that Maro liked women with large breasts. Maro tried to justify his choice, but the two were stuck with the idea that Maro liked large-breasted women. When it was Eiji's turn, he did not give a name but just stared at them. When the others assumed that Eiji was into the same gender, Ig made it clear that it was not the case and that he just couldn't think of a number two. After thinking for a while, the others wondered if Shinomiya was his type or something. It was then shared among the four that Eiji was from the same junior high school as Shinomiya. After teasing Eiji that he was into Gyaru-type girls, the four made it clear that they didn't need to fight over women and that their friendship would not easily be broken by that. After hanging out, Maro left the room. While walking in the hall, he was surprised when he saw Ushikura. Seeing Ushikura's distressed look, Maro asked what was wrong. After learning that Ushikura lost her keys, Maro realized that Ushikura would be in trouble and decided to offer help. Seeing Ushikura's embarrassed look, Maro told her to just think of it as repaying a favor. Ushikura then remembered that it was Maro whom they had helped find his lost entrance examination voucher on the day of the entrance exam. Maro was glad that Ushikura remembered and thanked them for the help. Ushikura assumed that they had the wrong guy that day since Maro didn't look happy at the time. As the two continued their conversation in the hall, Maro noticed something near a locker and realized that it was Ushikura's missing key. After getting back the key, Ushikura told Maro that they were now even and hoped that Maro would talk to her more in the future. As the two had a pleasant conversation, Eiji, who was listening to their conversation, became mad. The next day, Maro noticed that his classmates were all in one place. Nishida then revealed to Maro how Eiji actually became an adventurer. Seeing Ushikura talking to Eiji, Maro was left speechless. After some time, Maro approached Eiji and told him how surprised he was upon learning that he had become an adventurer. When Maro asked Eiji why he didn't tell him, Eiji's attitude changed and he told Maro not to speak to him so casually. Seeing Maro's puzzled look, Eiji just smiled at Maro as he continued to talk with the others, alongside Ushikura. Maro felt pissed, but he also knew that Eiji was an amazing person since he didn't give up as a mob character and took on the challenge and rose to the occasion. Seeing Eiji being surrounded by his classmates and being admired, Maro felt jealous and vowed to also become an adventurer. Maro then opened his eyes and went to school. Seeing Maro yawn, Nishida asked Maro if he was busy with his part-time job. Maro shared how he was recently assigned to train new recruits all at once. The two felt that Maro's job sounded like a lot of work and were not sure if they could do it themselves. They then asked if there was a girl, and if she was pretty. When Maro responded that there were indeed girls, Shota immediately became excited and asked what they looked like. After Maro shared his opinion of the girls, the two wondered if the girls Maro mentioned were inside an erotic game. Maro then made it clear that it was a real job. Although he was always accompanied by girls, Maro shared how he had a hard time since each of the girls had their own problems. Still exhausted, Maro decided to sleep in the infirmary and asked the two to tell the teacher for him. Arriving at the infirmary, Maro made his presence known and asked if he could borrow a bed. A student who was already inside the infirmary told Maro that there were no nurses yet and suggested that he take a break on his own. Upon seeing that the student was Shinomiya, Maro took Shinomiya's suggestion and lay down in one of the beds. While lying on the bed, Maro could not get any sleep at all. Maro wondered what kind of situation he was in, as he couldn't believe that he was all alone with Shinomiya. As the clock kept on ticking, Maro felt pathetic since he chose to become an adventurer so that he could speak to girls without freaking out. However, he was still bad at it. As Maro was so deep in his thoughts, he was surprised when Shinomiya suddenly shouted. While laughing, Shinomiya asked Maro if that was his real name since it was too strange. After explaining to Shinomiya his nickname and revealing his true name, Shinomiya thought that Maro's name sounded familiar, which Maro accurately guessed that Shinomiya was referring to a painter in the Edo period. After sharing the secret behind how he was named, Maro was asked by Shinomiya if she could call him by his nickname. After receiving confirmation from Maro, Shinomiya asked him if he had a part-time job. When Maro confirmed it again, Shinomiya then remembered seeing Maro working at a supermarket once. Seeing how tough the work was, Shinomiya asked Maro why he was working so hard every day. Maro told Shinomiya that he had a goal in mind and was saving up money. Maro had never felt anything when he had never been in the center of the class. But when Eiji became popular, he was surprised and decided to try and also change. After telling Shinomiya how he was still trying to achieve his goal, Shinomiya smiled and told Maro how cool he was. Inside the labyrinth, Kuzi warned Maro of nearby goblins and a wolf. Maro patted Kuzi's head and praised her for the warning. When Maro asked Kuzi if she could try to fight, Kuzi was hesitant and told Maro she was still not ready. Maro understood Kuzi's feelings and told her he would switch her with Guler once they got closer to the enemies. Ashamed by her cowardice, Kuzi apologized to Maro. Kuzi was surprised when Maro did not get mad and instead encouraged her to continue progressing at her own pace. Maro's words encouraged Kuzi, and she decided to continue scouting with enthusiasm. Seeing Kuzi and Maro's interaction, Zashiki sarcastically commented on Maro's kindness. Zashiki then asked Maro if he was trying to be a benevolent master by pretending to care about his cards. Zashiki mentioned how it was much better to buy a stronger card than to train a weak one from the ground up. Maro did not believe Zashiki's words and responded that Kuzi is plenty useful. Zashiki assumed Maro was talking about Kuzi's scouting skills, and commented that a lower-ranked card could also scout. Maro told Zashiki he doesn't believe in the idea of disposing of useless cards but rather in training and cultivating them. Bringing up the topic of sweets, Maro assumed he was the only master who'd given the rebellious Zashiki sweets. Annoyed by Maro's comment, Zashiki vanished in front of him. Running in fear, Kusi reported to Maro that they were getting close to the enemies and asked him to switch her out. Maro immediately switched Kusi to Guler. As Guler assessed her surroundings, she let her guard down since they were not in combat. Maro then debriefed Guler on what they were up against. After informing Guler that she could use any tool at her disposal, Maro asked Guler what they should do next. After a moment of silence, Guler suggested that situation number 27 could be used against their enemies. Using Guler's slingshot, she would try to get in range and take out the Battle Wolf. After the Battle Wolf, Guler planned to pick up the bullets and move on to the next group. Regardless of whether the enemy was dead or not, Guler would then equip the stun baton and attack them. Maro was impressed with Guler's strategy. After handing Guler the tools, Maro reminded her to equip the helmet cam and record everything. After Guler left, Zashiki noticed the huge difference in Guler and wondered if she was really a ghoul. Maro revealed how he trained Guler, achieving quite a feat. After Maro told Zashiki that Guler can't do anything but follow orders, he explained that what Guler displayed earlier was just her repeating a combination of simple commands. Although Guler can't come up with a scenario by herself, Maro gave Guler choices so she could think for herself and then learn from it. Maro then revealed Guler's card, which surprised Zashiki when she saw that Guler had learned 2 new skills. Boasting in front of Zashiki, Maro was told not to be cocky and that she would respect him once he cleared a single labyrinth. While Maro and Zashiki were busy arguing, they didn't notice that Guler had already finished off the enemies. After informing Maro that the battle was over, Guler handed Maro some magic stones. When a monster in the labyrinth is defeated, the monsters drop black ores called magic stones. After being asked for the battle report, Guler told Maro that she first tried taking out the Battle Wolf but accidentally hit the goblin instead. Guler then moved to the second stage, which was reloading the slingshot. However, the Battle Wolf suddenly ran at her. Based on situation number 4, Guler stopped what she was doing and switched to close combat mode. She then used the stun baton and her skills to annihilate the enemy and returned to Maro. After praising Guler's hard work, Maro switched her out. Maro was frustrated when things weren't going according to plan. Although nothing bad happened since they were in a low-ranking labyrinth, Maro couldn't help but wonder what would happen if they moved to a tougher labyrinth. Labyrinths are conquered by defeating their lord. The lords are usually a rank higher than the regular monsters that appear in the labyrinth. Additionally, the labyrinth gives the lords some sort of buff to increase their chances of winning. Despite the fact that none of Maro's cards have a special skill, having a D-ranked card like Guler makes it possible for Maro to conquer the current labyrinth. Maro then summoned Kusi and ordered her to search for the stairs to the next level while searching for enemies. After informing Kusi that they would return home once they found the stairs, Zashiki made fun of Maro's decision and asked if he would ever be able to beat the labyrinth. The two later had an argument about a book that Zashiki was reading. Back at home, Maro thought to himself that calling Kusi and Zashiki a force to be reckoned with was out of the question. However, Maro was able to manage the two and made improvements. After finishing his plans, Maro double-checked the list of vanished persons. Although the guild sells both maps and strategy guides, Maro decided not to get one. The first reason was that he didn't have enough spare cash to buy information. The second was that Maro figured that getting first-hand experience in an F-rank labyrinth was a much better option. That said, any fee in public information was fair game for Maro, especially when it came to information about vanished persons. People who go into the labyrinth and never come back are called vanished persons. The fact that people can end up missing is a testament to how dangerous labyrinths can be, no matter the rank. Nevertheless, in a low-ranking labyrinth, the rate of vanished persons is extremely low. After hearing a knock on his door, Maro was told by his sister that his bath was ready. The next day, Maro laid out the things he needed for the labyrinth. When Maro's sister finally woke up, she saw Maro's tools and asked if he was going inside the labyrinth again. When his sister asked if she could join, Maro immediately told her that he was not going to do that since it was too dangerous. Maro then revealed that bringing a civilian to the labyrinth is not allowed and could result in losing one's license. Maro's sister expressed how she loved him but thought how boring he was. However, after becoming an adventurer, she now sees Maro as a cool person, which makes her happy. As Maro was about to leave, his sister told him to wait by the door before heading out. After putting on his shoes, his sister hurriedly followed him and gave him a lucky charm. Although it was not from the shrine, Maro's sister hoped it would work as she made it along with their mother. Maro was speechless for a moment and then told her to look forward to his stories about the labyrinth. As the two parted, Maro was now more determined to conquer the labyrinth. After learning the location of the stairs to the lowest level, Maro immediately headed there. After 5 hours, Maro and Kusi arrived at the stairs. Before entering, Maro suggested to Kyuzi that they take a short break. Zashiki demanded sweets from Maro, claiming she was tired even though she hadn't done anything. After eating the sweets, Zashiki commented on their flavor and asked for the chef who made them. Seeing Zashiki's behavior, Maro could tell she had been reading too much cooking manga. While eating his sweets, Maro appreciated the beauty of the surroundings, a perk of being an adventurer. When Zashiki asked for another sweet, Maro felt disrespected and told her there were no refills. When Kyuzi approached Maro with a frightened look, he knew she wanted to be switched out. After praising Kyuzi's hard work, Maro switched her with Guler. After confirming with Guler that she was ready, Maro stepped onto the stairs. Upon arriving at the last level, Maro felt chills and noticed a change in the atmosphere. Detecting a smell similar to raw sewage, he decided to go back but was surprised to see the stairs had disappeared. Dumbfounded, Maro wondered if it was a last-level gimmick. Zashiki then appeared and snapped Maro back to his senses. Upon learning that the level they were on was not ordinary, Maro regretted entering it, wishing he had chosen a different one. Zashiki, puzzled by Maro's words, told him he wasn't strong enough to detect a lord capable of isolating a level like this. When Zashiki informed Maro that he would die, Maro was filled with fear. They were now dealing with an irregular encounter, a nightmare taking the form of a fairy tale figure, a unique monster that overtakes the labyrinth's original lord and waits patiently for its prey. Frustrated, Maro remembered the distress signal embedded in the adventurer's license. However, he was shocked to see an error message when he tried to use it. Learning that the whole space was isolated, Maro wondered what his next step should be since the distress signal was his last resort. Fearing he had no choice but to face the irregular encounter himself, Maro was surprised when Zashiki handed him his lucky charm. Calming himself, Maro followed Zashiki's suggestion to switch Guler with Kyuzi for better spotting. After summoning Kyuzi, Maro informed her they were facing an irregular encounter and ordered her to find it. With one sniff, Kyuzi warned Maro of a different smell nearby. Zashiki then used her magic to kill what turned out to be just a rat. She explained that the rat was the irregular encounter's familiar, and seeing a rat was a bad sign as they never stopped spawning. As the group decided to move and look for the irregular encounter, Kyuzi informed Maro she smelled blood nearby. When Maro checked a bush, he was shocked to see a horribly killed human. He thought the irregular encounter was using an illusion, but Zashiki told him it was a real corpse, and that the boy's soul was trapped inside the labyrinth. Maro found it hard to believe, as laws prevent children from entering labyrinths. Zashiki then mentioned Angol-moi, causing Maro to ask how she knew how long it had been since the last one. When Zashiki reminded him that time doesn't pass in the labyrinth, Maro became confused, remembering the last Angol-moi was 20 years ago. Time and place became distorted in his head. Remembering he was an adventurer, Maro realized the body in front of him was indeed a real corpse. After vomiting, Zashiki handed him a bottle of water. Wondering what they should do next, Zashiki offered to defeat the irregular encounter herself for a handsome reward. Realizing that Zashiki was trying to cheer him up, Maro did not take the offer since it would cost him a whole bunch of sweets if she succeeded. Zashiki, looking forward to bankrupting Maro, who she disliked, was disappointed. Maro responded that her plan was impossible because she was stuck with him. While killing off rat monsters, Zashiki suddenly asked Maro if he had a girl he liked. Unsure why Zashiki was interested in his personal life, Maro responded that he had a crush on someone. Zashiki became excited and asked Maro more questions about his crush. As they walked through the dense level, Maro saw another corpse. However, after seeing the corpse's face, Maro couldn't help but imagine himself in the corpse's place. Rattled, Maro bumped into Zashiki, not realizing a rat monster was near them. After taking care of the rat, Zashiki continued asking Maro about the girl he liked. While talking about Maro's crush, Zashiki accused him of being a pervert since he hadn't asked his crush out yet. During the conversation, a corpse impaled on a tree suddenly laughed. Maro heard the laugh and reacted with anger. Seeing Zashiki without a reaction, Maro regained his senses when Kyuzi called his name. Maro assumed that what he heard was an auditory illusion or part of the labyrinth's gimmick using the laughter from children's souls. After Maro cleared his head, he immediately apologized to both Zashiki and Kyuzi. Maro then continued discussing his crush. He revealed that becoming an adventurer was just part of his plan to get closer to his crush. Maro shared that he planned to ask his crush out on Christmas and asked the two to keep it a secret. After learning Maro's plans, Zashiki told him that if he died before Christmas, she wouldn't care. Maro felt nervous and told Zashiki that her words weren't funny, especially given the situation they were in. Zashiki reassured him that it was just a joke and that he wouldn't die as long as she was around. Finding comfort in Zashiki's words, Maro was then alerted by Kyuzi that the Lord was close to them and that they would encounter each other in a few minutes. After giving the report, Kyuzi apologized to Maro and asked him to switch her back since she couldn't be of any help. Seeing Kyuzi trembling in fear, Maro patted her on the head and told her that she didn't have to apologize. Despite Kyuzi's frightened behavior, Maro was very appreciative of her for leading them into harm's way. Hearing Maro's words, Kusi teared up, ashamed at how pathetic she felt. She cried, wishing she were more heroic. Maro understood Kusi's behavior, recognizing it as common to both humans and monsters. He recalled his own fear of talking back to Nariken. In a way, Maro admitted he also had a cowardly streak. Zashiki teased Maro for being kind and insinuated that he would rather get a strong card than train a weak one from the ground up. Maro smiled and told Zashiki that he was going to keep Kusi and swore to enhance and rank her up. After hearing the sound of a flute, Maro immediately put on a mask. As Zashiki stood behind him, Maro summoned Guler and asked her to put on a mask as well. Piecing together the clues from the rat familiars, the corpses of children, and the sound of a flute, Maro realized who they were up against, the Pied Piper of Hamelin. While hiding behind the trees, Maro ordered Guler to fire. After firing the slingshot, Maro was shocked to see the attack deflected by a barrier. As the Piper looked at Maro's location, he stopped playing the flute and faced them. Maro ordered Guler to shoot again, but the attacks were still deflected. After seeing their attacks blocked, Maro guessed that the barrier had no connection to the flute being played and was always active to protect the Piper. Spreading his arms out, the Piper recited a story. He then placed the flute near his mouth and asked Carnival Zero to listen to him. As the Piper played his flute, all the rats behind him immediately attacked Maro and Guler. Seeing the incoming rats, Maro ordered Guler to lift him up. When a rat was about to bite Guler, Maro took out a spray can and sprayed it everywhere. Maro's move turned out to be quite effective since the rats hit by the spray got knocked out. However, there were still more rats nearby. Seeing the second wave of rats, Maro became frightened as he couldn't see an end to them. While the Piper controlled the rats using his flute, Maro was fighting them back by using the rat repellent. With the Piper's words, the rats suddenly stopped and retreated. Maro wondered why the rats ran away, but when he saw them jumping into the river, he guessed that the Piper was trying to bring the story to life. As Maro guessed the Piper's next attack, they stood still while the Piper played his flute and released a magical tune. However, when the Piper opened his eyes, he was puzzled to see Guler and Maro still standing. Seeing the earplugs on Guler's ears, the Piper felt disrespected and became angry. Maro then threw the rat repellent at the Piper to distract him and grabbed the slingshot. After throwing the slingshot to Guler, Maro ordered her to shoot the can. As the Piper was covered with smoke, Maro wondered if they had succeeded. However, what they achieved only made the Piper angrier. No longer tolerating Maro's actions, the Piper's flute suddenly turned into a scythe. Filled with anger, the Piper threatened Maro, saying he would slice his head off. Meanwhile, as the Piper was facing Maro, Zashiki took the opportunity to do a sneak attack on him. Unfortunately, the Piper was able to dodge the attack. Disappointed that she missed, Zashiki was still pleased since she found out the Piper's weakness. As Zashiki alerted Maro, he realized that the Piper could only put up the barrier if he had the flute. Maro then ordered Guler to proceed with Phase 3 and attack. Using a baton, Guler vigorously attacked the Piper. Blocking and evading Guler's attacks, the Piper lured her into a dangerous situation. Unfortunately for him, he received serious damage first before cutting Guler's head off. After Zashiki blasted a hole in the Piper's chest, Maro's legs gave out and he wondered if they had finally bested the Piper. Relieved that the fight was over, Maro was then told that he had dropped his lucky charm again. However, unbeknownst to the three, the Piper was still alive and stood behind Zashiki. Not noticing the Piper's presence, Maro witnessed the Piper attacking Zashiki and slicing his lucky charm in the process. As Zashiki turned around, she showed a sad expression. However, she was saved by Guler, who ended up getting sliced in two. As Zashiki clenched her fist in anger, the Piper smiled menacingly. He regrettably missed his target but was still happy that Guler was hit instead. Enraged, Zashiki threw multiple blasts toward the Piper. Unfortunately, Zashiki's attacks missed as the Piper vanished in front of them. Surprised by the Piper's sudden disappearance, Maro then realized that the Piper had teleported, making it look like he was hiding. Zashiki told Maro to go to Guler. As Maro held Guler's upper body, he kept reassuring her that everything would be fine. Seeing how bad the damage was, Maro tried feeding Guler a rat to restore her health. After eating the rat, Guler's upper body slowly connected itself to the other half. When Guler tried to move, Maro immediately told her that she was not fit to move yet. When the Piper started to tell a story again, a blast of magical notes came out of the hole in his body after he mentioned the supper of the lamb. As the magical notes got close to Zashiki, she noticed that one of the notes had a mouth and was trying to bite her. When Zashiki defended herself by shooting down the note, Maro noticed a child appear after the note was defeated. As the Piper boasted about his organic sounds, Zashiki became enraged and shot multiple magic blasts at the Piper again. After blocking the attack with his flute, the Piper counterattacked with the same move, blasting magical notes from his body. Zashiki immediately moved away and asked Maro what they should do next. As Maro wondered about their next move, Guler asked Maro to give her an order. Suddenly, Maro felt something in his pocket. He was surprised to see Kusi's card glowing. Maro praised Guler for her hard work and told her to leave the rest to them. Guler, who still wanted to fight, accepted Maro's orders and rested. When Maro summoned Kusi, the surrounding trees trembled. As the piper became puzzled about what was happening, Kusi appeared, growling with her teeth bared. Seeing Kusi angry, Maro saw hope in her and started their counterattack. Due to Kusi's awakening, her obedience and cowardice skills turned into loyalty and heroism. Kusi's past was filled with insults. Her previous master insulted her when she killed a monster near him and splattered its blood on him. Afraid to respond, Kusi was told how useless she was. When she promised her master that she would do better, he gave her a condition. She had to conquer the floor by herself. Kusi was left with no choice but to follow orders. After some time, Kusi returned to her master all bloodied. However, he was only disgusted by her injuries. Kusi was shocked to hear her master say he regretted buying her. She was heartbroken when her previous master told her that he no longer needed her. Before Maro got trapped in the last level, Zashiki told Kusi that she didn't have to force herself to follow Maro's orders. Although they didn't know what Maro's plans were, Zashiki reassured Kusi that they would be there for her and asked her to just relax a little. When Kusi accidentally stepped on Guler's feet, she immediately apologized. Afraid that Guler would hit her, Kusi was surprised when Guler patted her instead. When Maro understood Kusi's condition and praised her for leading them, Kusi no longer wanted to lose more people and decided to protect them at all costs. Witnessing Kusi showing her courageous side, the piper became amused. Kusi initiated the fight, but unfortunately her surprise attack was blocked. The piper counterattacked, but due to Kusi's speed he was unable to land the attack and even received damage when Kusi attacked him again. When Kusi saw the magical notes, she immediately moved away. As the magical notes were about to hit her, she was protected by Zashiki, who blasted the magical notes away. As the two summoned monsters combined their might to face the piper, Maro sensed something bad was about to happen and ordered them to stop the piper immediately. While fighting off both Kusi and Zashiki, the piper was also telling a story. When he mentioned the Pied Piper of Hamelin, extreme noise rained down upon Maro and his summons. Although Maro's card barrier was still active, his ears were still ringing. Maro then remembered that Kusi was not wearing any earbuds and immediately looked for her. However, he was too late as blood was visible from Kusi's ears. Maro then saw Zashiki drop to the ground. Wondering what happened to Zashiki, Maro was shocked to see blood on Zashiki's eyes and legs. As the piper stood behind Maro, he tried to end Maro's life. Suddenly, the piper's arms were cut off. Puzzled, Maro then saw Kusi standing up. As Maro wondered how Kusi could still move, the piper realized that due to Kusi's hero skill, she was able to move again. The piper laughed and told Maro that he would waive his fee once, but promised that Maro would pay next time. Before thanking Maro for being a splendid customer, the piper vowed that he would hunt Maro to the ends of the earth every time they met. The piper's head was then blown away, ending their fight. As Maro saw his reward, he immediately lay down due to exhaustion. Zashiki and Kusi were worried about Maro. Zashiki kept reminding Maro of the reward after defeating the irregular encounter. Maro then told the two that he had a much better reward for them, which made Zashiki skeptical. When Maro revealed that he planned on giving them names, the two were surprised and asked if he even knew what that meant. Maro responded that he knew what naming meant. Naming a card means that the user can no longer reset the card, but in exchange the card can be revived. Maro received a reminder from Shigeno that a card like Zashiki would lose her value as an extra life card if he named her. However, after their fight with the irregular encounter, Maro knew that he could count on his summons. For Zashiki Warashi, Maro named her Renka. For Kusi, she was given the name Yuki. Lastly, Maro named Guler Eliza. While Yuki was thankful to Maro for giving her a name, Renka expressed how annoyed she was to be stuck taking care of a newbie master. Maro then noticed a chest beside him and assumed it was the labyrinth reward. Renka reminded Maro not to get ahead of himself, and Maro apologized. After receiving a good luck blessing from Renka, Maro opened the chest reward for the labyrinth. Maro and Yuki did not expect the reward to be only a potion and a magic stone. Maro wanted the potion to be appraised but assumed it wasn't worth much since it was a one-time use item. Renka was enraged as she wanted the chest to be filled with gold and silver treasures. Although they had a hard time conquering the labyrinth, Maro expected the reward to be simple, since they were in an F-ranked labyrinth. Despite receiving a low-level reward, Maro was not disappointed since he gained something that money couldn't buy. After the life-threatening incident, Maro returned to his home guild. He reported how he subjugated an irregular encounter and asked for the rewards to be appraised. After handing over the rewards, Maro was told that the appraisal would take some time and that he should wait and take a seat nearby. Maro still couldn't believe that his first labyrinth subjugation had an irregular encounter. Remembering how the piper still moved despite having a hole in his chest, made Maro assume that the piper was an undead, like Eliza. However, what puzzled Maro was why the piper committed suicide. Maro guessed that the Piper was afraid of Yuki since she wasn't very affected by the Piper's attacks and proved to be very dangerous against him. Judging by the Piper's reaction, Maro knew there was something more to it. Whatever it was, Maro needed to do more testing to find out. Maro's name was suddenly called. When he looked to see who was calling, he was surprised to see Shigeno. Shigeno praised Maro for clearing his first labyrinth and dealing with an irregular encounter. Maro acted humble in front of Shigeno. However, Shigeno told Maro that what happened during the irregular encounters wasn't a miracle but the fruits of Maro's labor. After Shigeno informed Maro that he would be helping with the appraisal, he asked Maro to follow him into a private room to discuss the items in more detail. After Shigeno returned the reward items Maro had obtained in the labyrinth, he explained that the potion was called Panacea. The potion can be used for all sorts of things, such as beautifying treatments or healing injuries and illnesses, and it is proven to always be in high demand. But since the supply was also quite high, the bottle Maro picked up was worth 10,000 yen. Regarding the magic stone, Shigeno informed Maro that the guild buys white magic stones for a high price, estimated at 60,000 yen. However, the red magic stone that dropped after defeating the irregular encounter was a different matter. Maro was surprised when Shigeno mentioned that the red magic stone was special and worth around 1,000,000 yen. Shocked at how expensive the red magic stone was, Shigeno explained that they also factored in the risk involved in obtaining it. Maro froze upon learning that the red magic stones in a C or D ranked labyrinth could be worth up to 100 million to 1,000,000,000 yen. After appraising the flute, the guild determined that it was Hamlin's flute. Irregular encounters are extremely rare, but when defeated, they leave behind a magic tool that was part of themselves. Realizing that the flute was more like a trophy, Shigeno informed Maro that the item's performance was also unrivaled. Maro was surprised when Shigeno told him that the flute had the ability for spatial transfer. Maro assumed he could teleport anywhere he wanted, but was immediately corrected by Shigeno, who explained that the user needed to visit the location at least once before teleporting. Shigeno was impressed by the flute since most spatial transfer magic tools are limited to one-time use, but the flute had no limits. After informing Maro that the object left by the irregular encounter could only be used by the person who defeated it, Shigeno mentioned that the guild could still technically buy it from Maro. However, Shigeno said that Maro could keep the item for himself. Since drops from irregular encounters are quite rare, Shigeno warned Maro to always be vigilant as someone might try to take the item by force. Scared of what might happen, Maro was given a solution, converting physical items into cards. After requesting the item be turned into a card, Maro still couldn't believe it cost him 1,000,000 yen. Upon arriving at school, Maro greeted his classmates but only received a cold shoulder. As Maro had become accustomed to the treatment he received at school, he overheard that Ono had already defeated 2 labyrinths. Seeing Iji and Ono talking, Maro noticed that Ono seemed a little less sparkling than before. When Maro heard a commotion coming from his friend's table, he approached them and asked why they were yelling. Shota expressed his disappointment upon learning that the woman he liked was only in second place, while Yoichi shared his idea that succubi were the best. As the two ended up agreeing that elven ears were the best, Maro was asked what kind of girls he liked. As Maro thought of a girl, he smiled as his head filled with thoughts of Renka. When Maro shared that he liked Zashiki Warashi, Shota wondered if such a monster was in the ranking. After learning that Zashiki Warashi wasn't in the ranking, the two wondered if something was up with Maro, and if he chose Zashiki Warashi for her luck or something. When Shota gave Maro better options, Maro agreed but told them that Zashiki Warashi just sprung to mind. Speechless, Shota and Yoichi asked Maro if something had happened since he was becoming more mature. Shota trembled, assuming that Maro was hitting it off with the female part-timer he had mentioned before. Maro smiled and told the two that the situation was kind of similar. After hearing Maro's response, the two were relieved as they accurately guessed that Maro still didn't have a girlfriend. Maro was a little disappointed that he couldn't come up with a convincing lie since his friends knew him too well. Out of nowhere, Shinomiya approached Maro and his friends and asked what they were talking about. After greeting everyone good morning, Shinomiya suddenly whispered in Maro's ear, asking if he was getting closer to his goals. Maro embarrassingly responded that it was going pretty well. Hearing Maro's response, Shinomiya told him that she would be cheering for him moving forward, and winked at him before leaving. Maro's friends immediately gave off a scary vibe and questioned Maro about the meaningful exchange he had with Shinomiya. A month has passed since Maro became an adventurer. Renka, Eliza, and Yuki have acquired multiple skills and become much stronger. Eliza has grown the most. Many of Eliza's skills changed after the battle with the Pied Piper. She now has a definite sense of self. Before, Eliza could only wait for Maro's instructions or copy him, but now she can think and act for herself, although her reactions are still a bit slow. Yuki also gained a new skill and is now one step closer to being the perfect hound dog. This skill makes it easier for Yuki to see through stealth-type skills. When Maro experimented with Renka's hide-and-seek, Yuki was able to locate her. For enemies that can't hide, Yuki can locate them from a considerable distance, which helps Maro clear labyrinths. As for Renka, her combat power has increased, but Maro made progress in other areas. Renka has become much more cooperative than Maro could have ever hoped. She is now becoming a top-tier support. More specifically, the drop rate for loot is more than 3 times higher than normal, making Maro wonder if Renka was a meta choice for pro adventurers. But for some reason, Maro hasn't read anything about pros using a Zashiki Warashi. Seeing Maro smirk, Renka asked why he was smirking. After being told by Maro that it was nothing, Renka told him to stop spacing out or he would fail the promotion exam. Maro is now up for the 2-star promotion exam. Over the past month, Maro has beaten 10 F-ranked labyrinths. That, combined with all his other achievements, earned him the right to promote his rank. One of the requirements for the exam is to beat an E-ranked labyrinth designed by the guild. After ordering Eliza to play the flute, she pulled out a card and manifested Hamelin's flute. Using Hamelin's flute, Maro can create a portal that can transfer them back and forth through safety zones on levels Maro has already visited. After creating a portal, Maro asked all of his summons if they were ready. Since they are on the 12th floor and coincidentally taking the exam on a holiday, Maro shared how he wanted to get through 2 or 3 floors. Renka told Maro that something was bugging her. When Maro asked what it was, Renka noted that they'd already made tons of progress in just 5 days, even though Maro was given a month to pass the exam. When Renka insinuated that Maro was trying to rush something, Maro couldn't look Renka straight in the eye at first. Feeling that his secret was found out, Maro shared how he wanted to make a name for himself before Christmas. Maro's face turned red when Renka asked if he was doing it for a girl. As Renka kept teasing Maro about his crush, Maro got annoyed and ordered everyone to move. Before Eliza could finish her sentence, Maro was suddenly struck by an arrow in his chest. Frightened by the arrow, Maro was relieved that his Kevlar vest had saved him. The biggest difference now, compared to before, is that higher-level labyrinths introduce traps. While F-rank labyrinths are huge, they don't have any deadly traps. This is why F-ranked labyrinths can be conquered in a single day. However, it is not the same with E-ranked labyrinths. Traps also change their location after a set amount of time. Because E-rank labyrinths take a lot of time to progress through, adventurers have to sleep in the labyrinth overnight. This is also why nearly half of adventurers slow down, and the other half give up on becoming 2 stars completely. Being a 1 or 2 star adventurer is not considered an achievement, as the adventurer only needs money. However, attaining a 3-star rank is where things get interesting. Maro regained his senses when Renka clapped near his face. She reminded Maro that they were with him to protect him and that he shouldn't be scared by an arrow. Relieved, Maro and his summons continued to venture through the E-rank labyrinth. Killing off monsters and opening chests, Maro noticed that he could not locate a staircase. When Yuki asked if they were lost, Maro responded that they weren't entirely. He explained that he had been mapping the passageways with a special phone app, but no matter how Maro looked at the app, the entire map was filled in. Yet Maro still couldn't figure out where the stairs were supposed to be. Maro was sure he hadn't made any mistakes, which made him wonder if there was a secret path with multiple corridors. Since they didn't have any leads, Renka suggested they focus on the current level and revisit every corner again. If they couldn't find anything, they would repeat it on the previous level. Renka mentioned that they still had time to clear the labyrinth and should be able to finish it before Christmas. Maro agreed with Renka and ordered that they head back to the floor's entrance and re-explore everything. Walking back to the labyrinth's entrance, the group continued to kill off monsters. As Maro and the others rested in the safety zone, Maro was getting more disappointed, but he was still happy since they were gaining more experience from the monsters that kept respawning. When Renka asked Maro if he wanted to talk about something to kill time, Maro asked her what she had in mind. Renka then asked Maro how he came up with their names. Embarrassed at first, Maro started with Eliza and shared how she was named after the heroine from a movie. Maro explained that the movie was based on a Greek myth where a doll becomes human. For Yuki, Maro explained that her name was spelled in katakana. Maro wanted Yuki's name to have multiple meanings. For Renka, Maro noticed that her hair and eyes had a little tinge of vermilion, which reminded him of a lotus flower. Yuki and Eliza were happy to learn the origin of their names, while Renka hid her blushing face. Maro and Renka ended up feeling embarrassed about the topic of their conversation. Renka stood up and told Maro that break time was over and that they had to get going. Maro smiled and agreed that they should continue with their exploration. When Eliza opened the door, Maro was surprised to see an imp in the room. Maro became excited after seeing the imp. He then ordered his summons to defeat the imp by any means. Renka was puzzled by Maro's orders since they had killed imps before and some had even dropped cards. Maro responded that the ones they had dealt with were male imps and that female ones were completely different. Renka followed Maro's orders and told him not to be disappointed if nothing happened. The female imp dodged Renka's attack and initiated a counterattack. However, Renka easily blocked the female imp's strike. Eliza then heard Maro's order and immediately used the spray can on the female imp. Surrounded by thick smoke, the female imp ended up choking and falling to the floor. When the female imp finally sensed Yuki's presence, it was too late for her to react, as Yuki pinned her with her paw. After learning that an imp card had dropped, Maro became excited. Holding the imp card, Maro couldn't believe his luck that a girl card had appeared. After being told by Renka that cards commonly drop after defeating a monster, Maro explained that they had never encountered a female monster before, which made him think that female monsters were being produced somewhere in secret and put on the market. When Maro was asked if he planned to use the card even though it was just an E-ranked card, Maro couldn't give an immediate answer. He decided to check the imp's skills first. Fairy Devil, Elementary Wizard Apprentice, Devilish Heart, and Single-Minded Heart. After reading the imp's skills, Maro assessed that they were pretty decent. He thought of selling the imp card for a very good price but was still hesitant since it was the first girl card he had obtained himself. Maro ended up deciding to use the imp, which pleased his other summons. Maro told himself that if he didn't name the imp, then he could just sell her later. Yuki and Renka were both excited to have a new friend and even promised to teach the imp discipline within their ranks. Maro found it strange to see Renka happy, which made him wonder if he had really made the right choice. Maro then made a small cut on his finger and summoned the female imp. After Maro put his blood on the card and summoned the monster, he was greeted by the female imp. Introducing herself in a cute manner, Maro stared at her and asked what she was doing. When the imp suddenly scored Maro without any reason, he became mad and asked her why she was scoring him. The imp told Maro that his score was not a failure and just had room for improvement. After suggesting Maro choose whatever answer sounded better to him, Maro became even more puzzled by the imp's words. When the imp asked Maro what her score was, he initially told her it was 90, but then changed it to 80. Annoyed, the imp asked Maro why he deducted 10 points. Maro explained that he took into account what trouble the imp might cause him in the future. Surprised, the imp smiled, liked Maro's answer, and decided to give him an additional 5 points. The imp then asked Maro's summons if they were his friends. Not expecting the imp to interact with them, Maro's summons introduced themselves individually. After Renka told the imp not to drag them down, the imp was surprised that Maro's summons had names. She then outright asked Maro what her name was and requested that he come up with a cute one. The sudden request surprised Renka, who told the imp not to be so impudent since she was still a newbie. As they bickered back and forth, Renka's anger went through the roof after being disrespected by the new member. Others tried to calm Renka down, but it was to no avail. Renka expressed her dislike towards the imp after being disrespected by her. Renka was holding on to her anger when the imp told her that she didn't need their approval. Renka swore to Maro that she would never forgive him if he gave the imp a name so quickly. When Maro agreed to Renka's request, the imp asked why he would agree to her being left out of the group. Maro then asked the imp to give him some time to think of a good name for her, and requested that she do her best to be accepted by everyone. After informing the imp that the other summons earned their names by working hard, the imp eventually agreed to Maro's terms. She then told Maro that he had better think of a very good name for her. As the imp smiled at Maro, Yuki and Maro became frightened as Renka fumed with anger. After peeking to see what they were up against, Maro saw a zombie, a high kobold, a sandman, and a nightmare all in one place. The sandman could throw out sleeping powder that he had stored up in his sleeve. While the victim was asleep, the nightmare killed them in their dreams. Maro was a little frightened by the monster combination they were up against. He expressed his intention of taking out the Sandman first, but it proved to be more difficult since the zombie and high kobold were in the way. The zombie had high durability and the high kobold could buff his allies. When the imp asked Maro which one they should target first, Maro couldn't give an answer since their enemies were all strong to begin with. The imp suggested to Maro that she cast her skill to make their enemies fall over. Renka then told the imp not to involve herself in planning any attacks, warning that if her plan failed, she could get herself killed in a single hit. The imp responded to Renka that she would be fine since Renka had the abilities of good luck. Maro was still hesitant, as the only thing they could depend on was Renka's luck. Then Maro gasped as he realized something. After informing the others of his plan, Maro asked them if they were ready. He initiated their plan by ordering Yuki to move first. Maro wanted Yuki to go after the Sandman first, but the zombie and high kobold were in the way. After seeing that only the zombie was in front, Maro saw an opening and took advantage of it. Using the combined skills of misfortune and luck intertwined, and the imp's slip spell, the zombie in front of them slipped, creating an opening for Yuki to lunge at the Sandman. Following Maro's orders, Eliza took care of the high kobold, putting a hole in its chest. When the zombie tried standing up, he became frightened after seeing Yuki's eyes. Finally, Maro ordered Renka to take care of their last enemy, the nightmare. Maro was not sure if the imp's skill would work, but since they used Renka's luck skill, they were able to increase the chance of their enemy slipping. Although Renka's skill is not commonly used for attacking opponents, it was still good at giving the opponent enough bad luck to be affected by the slip spell. With the imp's abilities, she could give Renka the opportunity to use her luck to their advantage. Maro later realized that the two actually had very good chemistry. However, how they felt about each other was a different story. Maro wondered if there was something he could do to remedy the group's discomfort. As Maro thought of using the imp more in the fight, his attention was called by Renka, who shared that she was craving candy and asked Maro to give her something to eat. After hearing the word candy, the imp became excited as it was her first time eating one. Maro did not expect that the imp would also like candy and was sure that she would mesh well with Renka. As the imp kept badgering Maro about the candy, he gave her one so that she could taste it for herself. Just as the imp was about to reach the candy, Renka intercepted it and told the imp that the candy was too big for her and that she would eat it instead. Renka's action enraged the imp, leading to another argument between them. When Renka mocked the imp's power level, the imp was about to snap when Yuki asked them to stop. Since Renka had started the fight, Yuki asked her to return the candy. When Maro told Renka that she could have his share, Renka became pissed, gave the candy back to Maro, and said she was just messing around. When Maro handed the candy back to the imp, she responded that she didn't want it anymore. Seeing the imp's sad face, Maro offered her a bite-sized chocolate. After Renka hugged the chocolate, Yuki offered to open it for her if she didn't know how. Maro called Renka and asked her what was going on. As Maro expressed how he was still clueless about monsters and their combat powers, Renka interrupted and admitted that she understood she had gone too far with the imp. When Renka shared how she couldn't help herself, Maro understood, remembering that Renka had acted the same way with him the first time they met. Maro guessed that some people just couldn't handle Renka's attitude. Renka reassured Maro that she wouldn't mind fighting alongside the imp. After clearing the issue, Renka told Maro that she would apologize when she got the chance. When Yuki approached Maro, he was surprised when she mentioned that the imp didn't mind fighting with the others. Happy, Maro thanked Yuki and said they now had to give Renka and the imp time to work things out. Seeing the imp and Renka with their backs to each other, Maro thought that it might take a while for them to make up. As the group continued their exploration, the imp noticed something and told everyone that the wall she was pointing at looked a little strange. When the imp shared how the wall felt different, Renka then observed the wall the imp pointed at and compared it to the other walls. Renka realized what the imp meant and shot a magic blast at the wall. The others were surprised when they saw the wall melting. Renka explained that it had never occurred to her that a monster could be disguised as a wall and that they had been completely fooled. The monster was mimicking a wall and blocking the room's entrance. Maro cheered and praised both the imp and Renka for finding the entrance. After entering a room, Maro saw a carbuncle and ordered his summons to capture it immediately. As the carbuncle tried to escape, the imp used her slip skill to make it slip. As Renka was about to blast the carbuncle, she was suddenly stopped by Maro. He then asked the imp to finish off the carbuncle, which surprised her, and she asked Maro for the reason. Maro explained that a carbuncle is an extremely rare monster that only appears in E rank or higher labyrinths. Carbuncles are hard to defeat because of their speed, which means that if they are defeated, they can significantly increase a monster's combat power. Maro knew that it would have been more efficient if Renka landed the killing blow, but he also wanted the imp to get an experience boost. Renka understood what Maro wanted and agreed to let the imp finish off the carbuncle. The imp was puzzled by Renka's decision but was told by Renka that she should kill the carbuncle since she was the one who found the place. The imp smiled and agreed to land the killing blow. As the two directed their attention to the monster, the carbuncle shed a tear before being killed. The group then received a chest drop, but noticed that it wasn't the usual chest they always encountered. Maro explained that the chest in front of them was a gold chest that only appears when a carbuncle is defeated. After ordering Eliza to open the chest, Maro became excited when it opened. Seeing an orb inside, Maro immediately grabbed it, feeling like he had won the lottery after obtaining a skill orb. The type of skill orb can be roughly identified by its color, and the one Maro found was blue, indicating a magic skill. Since it was a magic skill, Maro thought that only Renka and the imp were the most suitable to use it. When the imp saw Maro staring at her, she told him to use the orb on Renka since there was no point in giving it to her. Maro decided to give the skill orb to Renka. After Renka touched the orb, she asked Maro what skill she had received. After sharing with everyone that Renka received the skill called Elementary Status Effect Magic, Renka wished the imp good luck with her new master. The imp was mad, leading to another fight between the two. Maro noticed a light coming from the imp's card, and realized that he could no longer sell it as she and Renka had gained the skill of friendship linkage. As the group felt the heat in the labyrinth, Maro thanked the imp for cooperating with everyone and taking care of the carbuncle. Walking down the stairs, Maro was surprised when he smelled something foul, similar to a stagnant river. He then remembered a familiar experience and immediately turned around. Relieved to see the stairs behind him, Maro thought that he might face another irregular encounter. Yuki then informed Maro that the corridors on the floor went downhill, and beyond that was stagnant water. Maro had to cover his nose as the foul smell was coming from the water. He theorized that they were now on the last floor, since there were signs of the floor being modified. Yuki then told Maro to get on her back. Maro was worried that they might encounter a monster and that Yuki might have a hard time fighting. However, Yuki reassured Maro that they would be fine and pointed out that he would have a hard time moving in the water. After accepting Yuki's offer, Maro then ordered everyone to stay alert for any enemies. As Maro was thinking about the final boss, he noticed how comfortable and secure Yuki's back was. Maro then asked the imp about the types of magic she could use. When the imp asked Maro why he was curious, Maro responded that he just wanted to make sure they were ready for the incoming boss fight. The imp shared that she has 4 skills: Magic Blade, Slip, Rest, and Barrier Jacket. Maro became excited upon learning that the imp had a barrier skill. The imp then clarified that she couldn't put up a barrier, but rather the skill was more like wrapping it around someone. She revealed that the barrier was only as strong as another layer of clothing. Realizing that the imp's barrier wouldn't be able to help them much in battle, Maro asked about the Fairy Devil skill. The imp explained that she was already using the skill, which makes magic easier to use and more powerful. Feeling embarrassed, she shared that the skill usually works on her, but now that she has friendship linkage, Renka can also use Fairy Devil. Yuki smelled the enemy and immediately warned Maro that it was coming. Maro jumped into the water and ordered everyone to prepare for battle. He then realized that it was very difficult to move and wondered if they should retreat. When Eliza finally saw the enemy, a Kappa emerged from the water and tried to attack her. Unfortunately for the Kappa, Eliza blocked its attack, then grabbed the Kappa's arm and slammed it against the wall. After seeing the Kappa get slammed into the wall so hard, Maro was shocked to see it still conscious. He wondered what the Kappa's shell was made of since it was so sturdy. When the Kappa ran away from Maro and the others, Renka asked Maro to stop spacing out and suggested they chase the Kappa. Seeing Maro's puzzled look, Renka reminded him of the new skill she had obtained. Remembering the status effect magic, Imp interrupted Maro and Renka's conversation, wanting to help capture the Kappa. When Maro asked the two about the type of effect they could use, both Renka and Imp mentioned debility. Deep in the labyrinth, the Kappa resurfaced from the water, thinking it was safe. However, Eliza was right behind him, trying to capture it. Unfortunately, the Kappa noticed Eliza's sneak attack and immediately jumped away before getting harmed. The Kappa initiated a counterattack and used the water to its advantage. However, Eliza easily caught the Kappa when it tried to attack her face. Grabbing the Kappa's head, Eliza threw it against a wall, temporarily knocking it out. She then grabbed the Kappa's arm and subdued it. When the Kappa finally regained his senses, it was too late to react since Yuki was already in front of him and wounded the top of his head. When Maro caught up with the others, he ordered Eliza to release the Kappa. The skill used on the Kappa is called Debility, a status effect that rapidly depletes one's strength. Since the status effect is also enhanced by the Fairy Devil, it is more effective than poison. As the Kappa's body vanished, Imp cheered for their win. Knowing that the Kappa is a D-ranked monster, Maro guessed that it was the Master of the Labyrinth, and defeating it made him a 2-star adventurer. Imp asked Maro what a disappointment box was when she heard of it from him. Maro explained that a disappointment box appears whenever someone defeats the Master of the Labyrinth and looks like a very gorgeous treasure chest. Upon learning that the disappointment box didn't appear, Renka realized that the Kappa wasn't the Master and was most likely a familiar. Sensing that something was coming, Yuki warned Maro that she sensed multiple presences approaching. Maro then ordered Yuki and Eliza to hold off the enemies. He ordered Imp and Renka to cast Debility on their enemies. After giving additional orders to Imp to use her slip skill and Renka to use her offensive magic, Maro asked Yuki how many enemies they were about to face. Emerging from the runoff water, Maro learned that they were facing 6 Kappas. Facing multiple D-ranked monsters, Maro found the situation unfavorable for them. Imp, along with the other summons, were getting frustrated from fighting so many monsters. Wondering how long the fight would last, Maro asked Eliza how many Kappas she had killed so far. Eliza responded that she now had 48 kills. As others suggested that they retreat, Maro encouraged them to bear a little longer as he could see they were getting closer to finishing the task. When Renka warned Maro that they would run out of energy if they kept up the same tactic, Maro reassured her that it would be over soon since it was about time for the boss to show up. Renka asked if he knew what the boss was going to be since he sounded very sure. Maro guessed that 9 out of 10 times, the boss would be a water tiger. A water tiger is one of the strongest D-ranked monsters considered mid to upper rank in terms of combat. When Yuki asked what the water tiger's skills were, Maro mentioned that it has a powerful skill called Kappa Boss. Imp thought the skill was very unfair since it can summon up to 48 Kappas. Maro explained that the summoned Kappas are more like illusions, weaker than real Kappas, and would disappear after some time. However, the Kappas they had taken out were not the same as the summoned ones. Maro assumed that the Kappas were strengthened by the labyrinth. After learning about the water tiger, Renka was just relieved that they could now face it and not the Kappas. Impressed with Maro's knowledge about monsters and labyrinths, Yuki heard something and reported to Maro that the boss was coming. Seeing the water tiger in front of them, Renka and Imp used ability multiple times. After successfully applying the skill to the water tiger, Maro instructed everyone to stall it so that the debility effects would build up. Maro was surprised when he saw the water tiger already in front of him. Before the water tiger could land its punch on Maro, Yuki was able to grab Maro and save him from harm's way. After creating some space from the water tiger, Maro realized how effective the Kappas really were, as they had taken a toll on their power. Left with no choice but to wait for the debility's effect to kick in, Maro was surprised when Eliza jumped on the water tiger's back. As the water tiger's vision was being covered, it tried to use its claws to throw Eliza off. However, Renka didn't want to give the water tiger a chance and shot a magic blast at its arm. Seeing the arm still intact, Renka didn't expect that the arm would be very tough, as she wanted to blast it off. Renka was still pleased since her attack seemed to have done something else. The water tiger was now trembling in pain. When the water tiger finally got its hand on Eliza, it immediately threw her into the water. Slamming its fist into the water tiger assumed that it had finished off Eliza. However, it was surprised when a body didn't show up. When Renka called the water tiger's attention, it was surprised to see Eliza unharmed. After mocking the water tiger, Renka used her magic blasts to cause damage to it. Using the slip spell, the water tiger lost its balance and fell into the water. Seeing the opportunity, Maro ordered Renka to paralyze the water monster. Renka tried paralyzing the water monster, but it was still too powerful and could still resist. When the water tiger finally stood up and walked towards them, Renka used every bit of her power and successfully paralyzed it. Relieved that the spell worked, Renka expressed how scared she was since the paralysis spell wasn't working. Labyrinth lords have strong status resistance. Even a paralysis spell, one of the stronger status ailments, was still hard to cast on a lord. The four then directed their attention to the water tiger and beat it up. After finishing off the labyrinth lord, the group noticed that the runoff water was going down. Expecting to get a big reward, Maro finally saw the disappointment box appearing nearby. Seeing that it was another potion, Maro ended up disappointed. However, Renka had a different reaction. When Maro asked what was wrong, he was surprised to learn that the potion had the probability of being Amrita. Found in Indian mythology, the Amrita is also known as the elixir of immortality. Unlike the one in Mythos, the one Maro found wouldn't grant anyone immortality. Instead, it gives the effect of rejuvenation. The Amrita has strong healing properties that could even heal someone from the brink of death. While thinking of things he could do with the Amrita, Maro was asked by Renka if he was planning to sell it. After informing Renka that he was still undecided, Maro asked her how she knew it was Amrita. Renka couldn't give an explanation and just told Maro that Amrita came to her mind after seeing the potion. Wondering if there was some connection between the Amrita and Zashiki Warashi, Maro decided to keep the Amrita for the time being. The group then decided to head back home after completing the mission. With the completion of the E-ranked labyrinth, Maro was able to pass the 2-star promotion exam. As Maro's number was called by the receptionist, he was congratulated for becoming a 2-star licensed adventurer. After receiving his updated license, Maro became very excited, feeling that he was one step closer to becoming a 3-star adventurer. The labyrinth run had earned Maro quite a bit of money thanks to the reward and loot. He thought of bragging about his money but realized he would just become the target of jealousy or gossip. He decided to wait and brag when he finally became a 3-star adventurer. When Maro was about to leave the guild, he did not expect to encounter Ono. Maro assumed he would not cross paths with Eiji or Ono since they were in the Tachikawa Guild. He later realized that the Hachioji Guild was close to the Tachikawa Guild. Maro regretted not choosing a guild further away until he got his 3-star license instead of choosing one nearby. Ono thought Maro had visited the guild to become an adventurer, but then realized Maro was already one. After questioning Maro, Ono learned that only he knew Maro was an adventurer. Before leaving, Ono told Maro that he was looking forward to working with him. The next day, when Maro arrived at school, he was immediately confronted by Nariken about being an adventurer. After receiving a cold reception from everyone, Maro had already expected what he would face and was sure Ono had revealed his secret. Being an adventurer can shoot anyone to the top of the school cast, but having 2 adventurers in the class is a different story. Nariken kept looking down on Maro, asking if he was trying to be cool like Eiji and Ono. Maro was annoyed, guessing that Nariken assumed he was a 1-star with no achievements. When Nariken asked Maro to show his cards, Maro remained calm as he no longer felt intimidated. After slapping Nariken's hand away, Maro told him they were not friends and that he never liked him from the beginning. Pushing Nariken and telling him to stop acting like they were friends, Maro then called Koga and asked who revealed he was an adventurer. After Koga revealed that he heard it from Ono, Maro asked Ono if he had done something to offend him. Ono apologized, telling Maro that he didn't expect revealing his secret would cause a problem. Maro knew Ono did it on purpose and lectured him about respecting privacy and not leaking information without permission. Ono apologized again but asked why Maro was hiding it. Maro was annoyed since Ono was still prodding him with questions that pissed him off the most. Maro had no intentions of hiding his secret forever. He just had a hard time finding the right moment to brag about it. When Maro responded that he was embarrassed about being an inexperienced adventurer, Ono condescendingly asked if he was making fun of him and Eiji since they were also inexperienced. Maro tried to clarify, but with Ono pestering him, Maro decided to say he was aiming to be a professional and was embarrassed about being inexperienced. The sudden revelation surprised everyone. Maro was of course lying since one can earn enough as a 2-star. Amazed by Maro's goal, Ono commented that it was still early for Maro to think of becoming a pro since they pretty much started becoming adventurers at the same time. As Ono assumed Maro was not yet a 2-star, everyone was surprised when Maro revealed that he was a 2-star adventurer. Eiji, having had enough, told Maro to stop lying and asked to see his license. When both Eiji and Ono saw that Maro was indeed a 2-star and had even subjugated an irregular encounter, their attitudes changed quickly, surprising Maro. After praising Maro, Ono shared how envious he was and commented that Maro must have reached a 2-star status due to having a really strong card and parental support. Ono then tried to get everyone on his side by portraying himself as a hardworking student saving money to obtain cards. When Ono asked Maro to show his cards, Maro sensed the situation was getting worse. Maro knew that one look at his cards would make anyone dubious about how he obtained them. With Renka's current power level, Maro was sure that buying a card like hers would cost tens of millions. In everyone's eyes, there was no way a brand new student adventurer could obtain such a card. Maro was confident that nobody would believe he only got lucky with the 1 million yen card. Realizing he could not turn the situation around, Shinomiya interrupted Maro and Ono's conversation and revealed that Maro also worked part-time jobs and saved up money. When both Shizuka and Shinomiya shared that they had seen Maro working at the supermarket, they assumed Maro was struggling to make ends meet. But after learning Maro's secret, Shizuka realized it was for the sake of his dreams. Seeing that Maro was being defended by 2 women, Ono jokingly asked if they were dating Maro. Ono's comment pissed off Shinomiya, who told him that his joke was boring. In retaliation, Shinomiya revealed that Ono was using his parents' money. Ono tried explaining that he mainly worked during holidays and summer, but Shinomiya was not having any of it, telling Ono that he should stop undermining people who work hard. Seeing that the atmosphere was now against him, Ono explained that he got pretty heated during the argument and apologized to Maro. When Ono asked Maro if he was going to the tournament, Maro was confused as he didn't know about any tournament. Ono then shared that there was a student-only Christmas Moncolo tournament from December 21st to 23rd. He further explained that the tournament had separate divisions for college and high school students, and that both divisions were only for amateurs, meaning it would be for 3 stars and below. Maro was shocked to find out that the winner of the tournament would get a C-ranked vampire card. Ono was sure Maro would enter the tournament since he was supposedly aiming to be a pro. Knowing that Ono was taunting him, Maro wanted to say no but ended up announcing that he would participate. When Ono informed Maro that they would all get together on Christmas to cheer him on, Maro was sure Ono just wanted him to lose his cards secretly. However, Maro also saw the tournament as an opportunity to boost his adventuring career and love life. Maro cried on Renka's lap and told her how mean his classmates were to him. Surprised, Renka asked Maro what had happened. After Maro explained the incident that occurred at school, Renka then asked him if he really was an idiot. Maro cried even more as he felt hurt by Renka's words and was now more worried about his standing in the class. Left with no choice, Renka told Maro that she would now use a Zashiki Warashi straw doll. As Renka placed a curse on Maro's classmates who were mean to him, Maro was horrified to learn that the curse Renka placed was the curse of defecating oneself on a crowded train. Renka's actions made Maro wonder if she had really cursed his classmates. Changing the topic, Maro expressed his determination to win the tournament. Renka asked Maro if he could just not participate, but Maro was not planning to withdraw from the tournament since the reward was too good to pass up. After sharing the prize for the tournament with Renka, Maro explained that female vampire cards were way out of his price range, and if it were a different card, he wouldn't even bother entering. If they won the tournament, Maro planned to rank up Eliza since she had done so much for him. Weak when it came to Eliza, Renka decided to do whatever she could to help out. Before sharing his plan, Maro first explained the rules of the tournament to everyone. The tournament would be a bracket elimination type with a standard rule set of 3 versus 3. Participants would create and register a deck of 10 cards beforehand. During a match, an adventurer would choose 3 cards from the deck and fight. If the adventurer got directly attacked or lost all their cards, they would lose. Each match had a time limit of 10 minutes. If time ran out, the loser would be determined by the adventurer with fewer remaining cards. After sharing the tournament's standard format, Maro emphasized that the key to winning was to have as many cards survive until the end of the match. Knowing that the deployment of cards was crucial, Imp became mad at Renka for excluding her name from the list of cards. As the two started arguing again, Maro reassured Renka that he would train Imp. However, with only 20 days left before the tournament, Maro was having difficulty obtaining more cards. Maro planned to first train Renka, Yuki, and Eliza to their limits by clearing labyrinths. At the same time, he planned to save up the money from clear rewards and use it to buy a D-ranked card to rank up Imp. Maro shared that he planned to fill the rest of the deck with E-ranked cards that had special skills. Renka suggested that he could cover everything if he sold the Amrita, but Maro wanted to keep it as insurance in case he lost one of his summons. Amrita could be sold for about 100 million yen, which was enough for Maro to revive everyone. After learning about the revival costs, Renka no longer objected to Maro's plans. Maro then told everyone that they would now be very busy, announcing their goal to beat 10 E-ranked labyrinths using Hamelin's flute. Starting his journey in conquering labyrinths and gaining some popularity in school, Maro did not notice the angry IG spying on him. After gaining enough money, Maro handed Imp her card. After thanking Maro for the opportunity to rank up, Imp used the card to evolve into Impusa. Acquiring a new set of skills, Impusa was now human-sized. Impusa was grateful to Maro but insinuated that she would be even more grateful if Maro gave her a name. Maro had already expected this and had prepared a name. Since Impusa had proven herself as an indispensable part of the team, Maro gave her the name Mare. Maro was shocked when he saw Mare tearing up. Thinking he had given her a bad name, Maro tried to explain what the name meant. Mare explained that it was not the reason she cried. She had not expected Maro to actually give her a name. She then vowed to Maro that she would do her best and promised that he would not regret giving her a name. Maro smiled at Mare, looking forward to working with her. On the day of the match, Maro was standing outside the stadium. Seeing that many people were strangely nervous, Maro assumed they were like him. Noticing two dazzling individuals, Maro thought they were the frontrunners of the tournament. Arriving at his room, Maro was surprised to see that it was very nice. To avoid trouble, the organizer had given each participant their own room. With some time before being called, Maro decided to review his strategy. He chose Eliza first as her skills helped a lot in speedrunning labyrinth explorations. Eliza also had the Protector skill, which made Maro decide to put her first. With the newly obtained Sandman and Nightmare, Maro planned to use the combination of the two E-rank monsters in the tournament. Sandman made enemies fall asleep, while Nightmare sapped the health of the Dreamer's messenger. The Sandman could put Mare, who had just become an Impusa, to sleep, and the Nightmare's presence blocking went unnoticed by everyone except Yuki. After running more battle simulations, Maro received a call that his opponent would be displayed on the television. Opening his television, Maro was shocked to see his enemy. When it was finally time for the match, Maro was first introduced as the Adventurer, who held a 2-star license with the subjugation of an irregular encounter under his belt. On stage, the host revealed that Maro's opponent would be his fellow classmate, Minamiyama Eiji. Monster Coliseum is a new sport where adventurers fight using cards. It all started when the Tokyo Dome became a labyrinth during the second Anglemois. For a labyrinth, the Tokyo Dome had a rather unique system. Only one master would spawn every day. Once it's defeated, nothing else spawns for the rest of the day. Due to the labyrinth's unique system, it showed no problem in using the Tokyo Dome as an event venue. However, for things like basketball, it was still not allowed. The governor at the time realized that the dome was just a giant empty box. They later decided to transform it into a coliseum. The event was a huge success. TV shows were created one after another, and all of them achieved high ratings. One of the shows became especially popular, which was called Gladiator. The show became a huge hit that the gladiator became a term used to refer to adventurers who made a living in the Colosseum. The culmination of events led to Monster Coliseum becoming a nationwide phenomenon. Back in the current time, the host was now hyping up the crowd for the 6th match of the first round. Maro was surprised when the host mentioned that Shigeno would be commentating on the match with them. As a former Self-Defense Force officer, the host wanted to know Shigeno's perspective about Eiji and Maro. Shigeno mentioned that Eiji was a methodical and reliable person. For Maro, Shigeno mentioned how Maro gives off the impression of being a gambler. When the host asked Shigeno what he meant by a gambler, Shigeno didn't want to spare the details and just responded that Maro is willing to risk it all for the sake of his dreams. Shigeno added that Maro was the type of person that one would really leave their eyes on. When Maro heard the host leaking personal information, he laughed upon learning that he had an advantage. Eiji then called Maro and ordered him to stop being an adventurer if he loses the match. Maro was confused and asked Eiji why he would do that. When Maro told Eiji that he would never quit becoming an adventurer, Eiji became mad and decided to put matters in his own hands. Eiji told Maro that he'll make sure that Maro would never call himself an adventurer again. As the match finally started, both participants summoned their monsters at the same time. Maro chose to summon Eliza and Sandman. The host was puzzled since he couldn't locate the third monster, and assumed that it was hiding using a skill. Eiji, on the other hand, chose to summon a boar orc and 2 high kobolds. Based on the monsters IG chose, Maro guessed that Eiji is using a summoning strategy. The boar orc is a D-ranked monster, while the 2 high kobolds are E rank. Maro had 2 ways of dealing with the enemy: either endure the battle until the summoning limit is reached or end the match as quickly as Maro can before he gets overwhelmed. Choosing the latter option, Maro immediately ordered Sandman. After Eiji ordered his monsters to start summoning, he was surprised when the high kobolds got knocked out. It was then revealed by the host that the Sandman has put the high kobolds to sleep with sleeping sand. Maro's tactic was not very effective against the boar orc, which gave it the opportunity to summon a lesser orc. After hearing that the high kobolds could easily be woken up, IG ordered his monster to quickly wake the high kobolds. However, Maro had already anticipated Eiji's move and ordered Eliza to take care of the summoned orc. The crowd became wild after witnessing Eliza's monstrous power. Witnessing Eliza dodge the boar orc's attack, the host could tell that Eliza was well taught. Knowing that the boar orc had a higher rank than a ghoul, IG ordered the boar orc to keep on attacking. Maro found the situation favorable to him. IG is slipping up, which was thanks to the surprise kill on the summoned orc. It was true that a boar orc would usually win against a ghoul if the battle goes long enough. And in the event that Eliza would be taken out, Maro was sure that the Sandman would not win against the boar orc either. To get a chance of winning the match, Maro gave Eliza the signal. After hearing Maro's order, Eliza continued a back-and-forth attack with the boar orc. Fighting up in the air, Eliza gained the advantage after kicking the boar orc's back, making the boar orc fall harder. While IG was shocked that his boar orc lost, the host praised Maro's ghoul for using a gorgeous technique to defeat a boar orc. Since ghoul monsters are not very common, the host asked Shigeno if the ghoul was such a powerful monster. Shigeno shared that ghouls are one of the weakest D-ranked cards. The initial combat power is low, and since ghouls lack ego, complex movements are hard to execute. However, Maro's ghoul had smooth movement, which Shigeno assumed that Maro's ghoul acquired a skill to help with its movements. Maro's ghoul received high praises from Shigeno since they've never seen a ghoul trained to such an extent. IG then tried to use his high kobolds but was surprised when the high kobolds were gone. Seeing that a black mist was the only thing that's left, Shigeno shared that Maro's third monster was a nightmare. Shigeno then explained that the Sandman put the high kobolds to sleep, while the nightmare took care of the rest. Seeing that IG no longer has any monsters that he can use, Maro ordered Eliza to directly attack IG. After breaking IG's barrier, the host then announced Maro as the winner. The host shared that the huge disparity in experience played a major role for Maro in winning the match. Seeing IG getting mad for losing, Maro still had little respect for him. Even though IG was an ordinary mob like Maro, IG still managed to join the normie group. But more than that, Maro was insanely jealous of IG. Seeing IG making a name for himself was Maro's driving force in becoming an adventurer. However, it was now different, as Maro realized that he was putting in more effort than IG did. After Maro turned around, IG became enraged as he could not accept that he lost to Maro. Out of anger, IG called out the boar orc. Maro was stunned after seeing the boar orc coming towards him. Fortunately for Maro, Eliza was there to protect him. After kicking the boar orc, Maro was horrified when he saw Eliza devouring the boar orc. The host immediately called their staff to protect both players on the stage. Eliza's TV debut started off with a broadcast accident. After the match, Maro returned to his room, listening to the commentators who were talking about Minamiya's card, not noticing that the battle was already over, and accidentally attacked Maro. Before the commentators could share the plan in preventing future mistakes, Maro turns off the television. Laying on his bed, Maro was thinking of Minamiya's fate and how it is being handled by the show's managers. Maro thought how it would suck if the whole show would get cancelled because of Minamiya's actions. Maro also didn't want Minamiya to be sent to prison. However, since Shigeno was the one commentating live, Maeve assumes that Minamiya's career as an adventurer is finished. Looking back, Maro wonders why Minamiya was so desperate. From Maro's standpoint, Minamiya was already part of the popular group, and even the one who cut Maro off. This made Maro confused, wondering why Minamiya was so angry. No longer thinking about Minamiya, Maro tells himself to be focused on getting Eliza ready. Meanwhile, the show managers were discussing with Minamiya about his future. As a result, the managers have officially withdrawn Minamiya from the tournament. Furthermore, they have also removed Minamiya as an adventurer. Although the managers had not taken any official disciplinary action against Minamiya, they still continued in confiscating his cards and asking for his license to be returned. Minamiya remained silent, thinking how things turned out in such a way. Minamiya believed that he was supposed to take down Maro and would go on in winning the tournament, or at least getting into the top 4. Remembering Ushikura's face, Minamiya still asked himself why and that things didn't go as he planned out. Shigeno called Minamiya's attention, asking him what his main goal was in becoming an adventurer. Diverting his eyes, Minamiya responded that he didn't really have anything to set as a goal and just wanted to become an adventurer. Minamiya was surprised when Shigeno accurately guessed that Minamiya wanted his classmates to respect him. This triggered Minamiya's anger, responding to Shigeno that he did want his classmates to respect him and that he still followed the proper guidelines. Shigeno tries to calm Minamiya down and clarifies that he is not implying that Minamiya's reason is a bad one. Shigeno asks Minamiya if he still remembers what he had told him when he first registered. Confused, Minamiya, who had clearly forgotten about it, asked Shigeno about what he had told him before. Shigeno repeats himself, telling Minamiya that becoming an adventurer grants one power through cards, but with great power comes great responsibility. With one wrong move, Shigeno pointed out that Minamiya could have killed someone. Shigeno understood how important it is for Minamiya about his status in school. However, Shigeno asks Minamiya, in order to maintain his status, would he accept and bear the sin of killing? Minamiya tells Shigeno that he was just overeating and clarifies that he never wanted to kill Maro. Although Minamiya's intentions were pure, Shigeno pointed out how he still acted on impulse and let his anger get the better of him. For Shigeno, that meant that Minamiya was not ready to wield the power of the cards. Shigeno tells Minamiya that he should be grateful to Maro since Maro could have arrested him if he wanted. However, Maro didn't want to put Minamiya behind bars. Shigeno asks Minamiya to think carefully about the meaning behind Maro's actions. The managers have already contacted Minamiya's parents to come and pick him up. Shigeno hopes that Minamiya will discuss the matter at home. On the second day of the tournament, Maro was so excited since he felt so rejuvenated because of his long rest. Planning to do his best, Maro then receives a call informing him to head down to the venue. Arriving at the stage, Maro's opponent surrendered immediately. In the fourth round of the preliminaries, Maro defeated his opponent easily, resulting in him being the winner. On a winning streak, the crowd now cheers for Maro. With the fierce preliminary round, the interviewer then introduces the top 4 contestants, interviewing each one of them. The interviewer first approached Tsubasa Kanazuki. As Kanazuki greeted in response, the interviewer then asked Kanazuki about his motivation in entering the tournament. Maro couldn't help but be pumped up, as he felt like he was seeing something out of a television show. In reality, Maro is literally on a television show and wondered if the segment would be aired. Concerned about how he looks, Maro hopes that his nose hairs are not showing. Kanazuki started off by introducing himself and apologized to the reporter as he boldly claimed that he would win the tournament. This statement left the reporter speechless. From what Kanazuki saw from the previous matches, it made him more certain that he would truly win the match. Listening on the sidelines, Maro couldn't believe that someone would say something so crazy. The reporter could only comment on how Kanazuki sounded like he was fired up. The reporter then started sharing Kanazuki's achievements and background, sharing first Kanazuki's school information, revealing that he has been an active adventurer since his first year of middle school. Reaching junior high school, Kanazuki now became a 3-star adventurer. Knowing all that, the reporter couldn't wait to see Kanazuki in battle. Hearing this, Maro becomes nervous since Kanazuki became an adventurer as soon as he was allowed to apply. With 3 stars under Kanazuki's belt, Maro was certain that Kanazuki was holding at least one C-rank card. The reporter then called Yujin Sato for the next candidate. Hearing his name, Sato was overwhelmed with nervousness. Observing Sato's reaction, Maro too becomes nervous as he thought that Sato would also declare something crazy like Kanazuki. In Maro's head, he pleaded to Sato to not say any cheeky things, since mob characters like them would never look cool saying it. After clearing his throat, Sato first introduced himself and immediately called Kanazuki out. Sato warns Kanazuki to not get too cocky, pointing out that winning card battles takes more skills than just being handsome. Sato's words did not get any reaction from anyone, making him feel embarrassed. Ending his time, the reporter then continued in sharing Sato's background and achievements. As a student, Sato is currently a senior high school student. Despite becoming an adventurer just a year ago, Sato hopes to be a professional adventurer in the future. The reporter then tells the audience how she hopes that everyone is looking forward to seeing what kind of battles Sato will show in the semi-finals. The next candidate was Anna Jushichiya, and the reporter asked her to share her enthusiasm. With a cheerful look, Anna introduces herself, sharing that she is a high school freshman. Anna then informed everyone to not be fooled by her appearance, revealing that she was born and raised in Japan. As a master, Anna admits that she is still inexperienced. However, Anna is quite confident because of her incredible cards and hopes that everyone is looking forward to it. Observing Anna, Maro couldn't help but think how Anna is quite similar to the lively girl in a television show. The reporter was so pleased seeing Anna full of energy. The reporter then started sharing Anna's background and pretty much repeated what he had said. However, Anna was not pleased when her father was mentioned and revealed that her father is the founder of Dungeon Mart. The reporter then pointed out to everyone that her father had nothing to do with her joining the tournament. Anna then shared how her father bought her first card when she first registered. After that, Anna has been on her own. and the rest of her cards were bought with money she earned herself. Anna clarifies that she would one day pay her father back for her first card. Anna ended her interview with an apology. Hearing all this, Maro could only think how difficult it was being a celebrity. For the final player to be interviewed, Maro was then called out and asked to share his enthusiasm. Shy, Maro introduces himself first and mentioned how he wanted to tell everyone that he won't lose. However, after hearing everyone, Maro guessed that he was already beat in terms of character. Maro also shared how all of his cards have a bit of personality to them and hopes that everyone would look forward to seeing them. All the contestants' attention immediately shifted towards Maro, as the interviewer mentioned that Maro is already a 2-star adventurer despite only starting 2 months ago. What drew more attention is when the reporter mentioned that Maro had already subjugated an irregular encounter. With that alone, the reporter believes that Maro already has more experience well beyond what's typical in his career length. The reporter then announced the much-awaited prize distribution and presented the prizes for the top 4. A man appeared pushing a cart full of high-quality cards. After all the cards had been lined up, Maro's eyes glowed seeing all the popular cards that focus on a variety of strengths, and also types of monster girls. Staring at the piled cards, Maro's attention was drawn to one card, which was a demon card. Observing further, Maro sees that the demon card is an evasion provocation type, which would pair well with Eliza. As Maro decided to choose the demon card, coincidentally, Anna also chose the same card and was about to pick it up. As the two stared at each other, Anna asks Maro if he too was gunning for the same card. Nervous, Maro responded that he is, and told Anna that he would be grateful if she let him have the card. Smiling at Maro, Anna responds that she may not be able to grant Maro's wish since she is also quite fond of the card herself. Anna pointed out that the demon card's stunning hair and allure were similar to hers, making them look a lot like each other. Maro was unsure how to react about Anna's allure and just showed an awkward smile. Since Maro is still not willing to let the card go, Anna suggests making a deal. Putting the matter aside, Anna suggested that whoever wins the match would get the card. Maro stayed silent as he could tell what Anna was trying to do. Anna continues to point out the possibility that one of them may lose before fighting each other, which Anna then suggests that the one with the better tournament record will get the card. Anna also brought up the possibility that both of them would lose in the semifinals, and told Maro that he can get the card if that were to happen. Hearing that, Maro thought that Anna is quite generous. Anna responds that she is, and pointed out that the last option wouldn't matter as she is certain that she would win. Maro already knows what Anna is trying to do. Maro is certain that Anna's aim is to fight him in the semifinals. Maro believes that Anna has already made Kanazuki as the last boss of the tournament and how she would end up fighting him sooner or later. Following that logic, Maro believes that Anna would choose to fight Kanazuki in the finals rather than facing him in the semifinals. If Maro were to put himself in the TV producer's shoes, Maro was certain that their ideas would line up with Anna's ideas. If Maro and Anna were to be eliminated in the semifinals, the card would end up in Maro's hands by default, making the semifinals kinda anticlimactic. Kanazuki is the most likely candidate to win, and as for Maro, people already are expecting him to lose. By having Maro fight and lose to Anna in the semifinals, Anna would then face Kanazuki for an exciting finals match. Maro is certain that the TV producers are also thinking the same thing. Maro believes that it is no coincidence that Anna happened to choose the same card as he wanted at the same time. In other words, Maro believes that Anna was already thinking of winning against him. This made Maro angry, but he contained it. With his cards being underestimated, Maro remained composed, shaking Anna's hand and agreed to their bet. As the two cheered each other, Maro was already planning on making Anna cry. The host thanked everyone for waiting as it was then announced that the first match of the semifinals would now start. Introducing the first candidate, the host calls for Anna Joshichiya from the Red Gate. Anna has secured straight victories using 3 D-rank cards, and also has 3 remaining uses of her magic tools. For the semifinals, the host informs the audience how Anna is completely changing up her lineup. Using the reserved lineup, the host believes that Anna is already aiming for the finals. Coming out of the White Gate, the host then introduces Maro. Seeing her big brother on stage, Maro's little sister cheered him on, which surprised him. Maro turns to his sister, waving at her and promising that he will do his best. Maro has used D and E rank cards skillfully and has advanced through the rounds. The host shares how Maro still has a hidden gem in his lineup, a C rank card. The host also shared how Maro still has all 5 remaining uses of his magic tools. During the prize selection the night before, both Maro and Anna selected the same prize card. Wanting the same prize made both contestants agree to a condition where the candidate who has a better score at the end of the tournament would get the prized card. However, by sheer coincidence, both contestants ended up going against each other in the semifinals. This meant that the semifinals round would settle the matter. Both Anna and Maro were then told to proceed with their summoning cards. Maro chose Mary, Eliza, and Renka for his lineup. Meanwhile, Anna chose an elf, a knight, and a unicorn. The host shares a little background about Maro's lineup, starting off with Eliza, who has been present throughout the entire tournament run. Next is Mare, who was seen in the last match. Lastly was Renka, whom the host believes is the card that Maro has been saving up. Mare smiles as she feels excited to finally have her grand debut. Confused, Renka tells Mare that her grand debut already happened in the previous round. That comment annoyed Mare, clarifying that the weakling she faced didn't count. Seeing the argument, the host points out how Maro's cards are having some sort of dispute. Hearing the host mention how his cards don't get along very well, Maro covers his face from embarrassment. Diffusing the situation, Maro asks for the girls to stop since everyone's eyes are all on them. The host points out how Maro's lineup is composed entirely of female monsters, making it eye-catching. On Anna's side, her lineup consists of an elf, unicorn, and a living armor. The living armor, which lacks pain perception, is very durable, which the host is certain will act as the tank. Playing the support role would be the unicorn, who specializes in recovery and support magic. Last in Anna's lineup is the elf, whom the host believes is the team's attacker. Looking at Anna's lineup, Maro could tell how well-balanced it is. What attracts Maro's attention is the elf, a card that boasts top-class popularity even among C-rank cards. All cards in general are more beautiful than any human. However, amongst them, Eves and Succubi boast the most divine beauty. Such cards are almost never sold anywhere because those who manage to find one never want to pair them. Maro has only seen elves in videos and commercials, but he can tell that the presence the elf brought is on a whole different level after seeing one in person. The unicorn and living armor are highly practical, making them top D-rank cards. With such a lineup, Maro could tell that he is completely outmatched in terms of price. However, despite all that, Maro still believes that his cards are far more superior than Anna's. When Mare asked Renka who was cuter between her and the elf, this only annoyed Renka more. Renka responds, pointing out how Mare is acting all high and mighty just because she's a little popular. Hearing questions like if being 10 times more expensive makes the card 10 times more powerful, and if who was cuter between Mare and the elf, Maro could only close his eyes and wonder if he could really win the match. When the host finally gave the signal to start the match, both Renka and Mare immediately initiated the attack. Maro was caught by surprise, since he has not yet given any orders. Fueled with rage, both cards were bad-mouthing Anna's cards, launching their ranged attacks. Maro remembers that in their plan they would have to keep their distance in the beginning. However, seeing how Anna's monsters react, Maro did not expect that the surprise attack would work. The host informs the crowd how Maro's cards rush the opening with a barrage of sleep spells. Seeing Anna's cards unable to defend, Maro took the opportunity and ordered Renka to directly attack Anna. With Renka charging up her attack, Maro smiles as he is certain that he has won, ending the semi-final stage. Before Renka's attack could reach her, Anna calls for the living armor. All of a sudden, the living armor disassembles itself and merges with Anna, allowing her to block Renka's attack. Looking at each other, both Renka and Maro immediately recognize the dark armored blade made by Ellen Baruch. Seeing her opponent's reaction, Anna was confused at first, but then realized that she had taken her enemies by surprise. Anna proceeds to share with everyone her hidden tactic, which is wearing the legendary dark armored blade forged by the one and only Ellen Baruch. Not only does the armor have a high defense, it also repels all magic besides lightning attacks. Annoyed, Maro knew that things started out as a joke, but the living armor's racial skill, Armorize, allows the master to fuse with the living armor, wearing it as a suit of armor for them. However, while it does indeed boast high magic defense, the armor doesn't actually repel all kinds of magic. Anna continues to increase her chances of winning, sharing how status effects are useless against her party. Pulling out a bottle of potion, Anna continues to throw it at her cards. To Anna's surprise, Mare suddenly appeared beside her cards. Catching her breath, Mare thought that she was already so close. Angered, Anna asks Mare when did she get there. Anna then orders the elf to wake up and attack. When Mare notices the elf standing up, she immediately moves away, barely dodging the attack. Returning to Maro, Mare was annoyed for almost being hit. Maro too was not pleased, as he was certain that if the elf had been asleep a little longer, Anna would have been defeated. Anna realizes that the reference Maro was making was just to distract her, seeing the surprise attack. Though Anna believes that the attack is quite shrewd, she still couldn't help but be impressed by it. Maro orders Renka to hit their enemies with another attack. However, Anna was not letting Maro lead the fight, giving an order to her unicorn. Seeing the unicorn casting a spell and only affecting Anna and her cards, Maro guessed that it was the unicorn's immunity, which raises resistance to status effects. With the immunity being casted, Maro was certain that their status effect combo would no longer work. Taking her turn to attack, Anna removes the living armor from her body and uses it to attack Eliza. Dodging the living armor's attack, Eliza counters with a kick, which the living armor also blocks. Seeing an opening, the living armor thrusts its sword and manages to hit Eliza's cheeks. Before Eliza could do anything, the elf tries stopping her in her tracks by shooting an arrow at her. Before the arrow could hit Eliza, it suddenly exploded, which surprised the elf. Appearing beside the elf, Renka tells the elf that too bad for her, her attacks won't connect. Renka promises the elf that as long as she is present, she will not let anyone hurt her friends. Focusing on Renka, the elf released multiple arrows. Renka teases the elf, telling her that she can't hit her target after easily dodging the arrows. Observing the flow of the fight, Maro believes that it will be bad for them if the stalemate continues. Mare can't do anything since she's trying to distract the unicorn. This left Maro with no other choice. Maro calls for Renka and pulls out a bottle, then smashes it onto the floor. That act caused a bright light, rendering Anna and her monsters momentarily unable to see. In order to defend herself, Anna calls for the living armor to fuse with her. When Anna finally opens her eyes, she notices that Renka was no longer with her team. With Renka nowhere to be seen, Anna guesses that Maro is again aiming for another direct attack on her. Anna praises Maro for trying, but reassures him that it will not work as she just uses Amdo to block the attack. Maro smiles and asks Anna if she was certain. Nervous, Anna is not sure what Maro is trying to do, but promises to find out with her next move. Anna then orders the elf to shoot at Maro directly. Releasing the arrow, Eliza suddenly stepped forward and took the hit that was meant for Maro. Anna praises Maro for blocking and asks how he would defend against her next attack. Maro responded that there would no longer be a next attack. Out of nowhere, Anna's unicorn received a surprise attack and was knocked out. In retaliation, the elf shot an arrow at Maro. However, the attack went past Maro and landed on Renka. Revealing herself to be injured, Renka was annoyed. However, she was still pleased since she managed to let Mare get inside the unicorn. Soon the unicorn would disappear, which leaves Renka dealing with the elf. Initiating a counterattack, the elf shoots multiple arrows, but Renka has already vanished. Seeing an incoming attack, the elf moves away and counters, managing to hit Renka once again. The elf asks Renka if that is all she's got. Before the elf could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Renka's sudden outburst. Asking the elf what she was about to say and assuming that it would be a half-priced bargain bin item. Confused, the elf tries to talk some sense into Renka, responding that she is not taking it that far. With the elf defenseless, Mare takes the opportunity and pins the elf down. Mare was also mad at the elf for stealing her thunder. However, the elf was just confused at the thunder Mare is talking about. Renka approaches the subdued elf, telling her to not move. Annoyed, the elf didn't expect that she would lose in such a ridiculous way. Renka then welcomes the elf to the world of gag characters. As Renka tells the elf, "Hasta la vista, baby," Anna asks for Renka to wait. Seeing her monsters pinned down, Anna closes her eyes and admits her defeat by surrendering. The elf could only call out Anna's name, facing their first loss in the tournament. Acting all smug, Renka mentions how Anna seemed to be a bit of a softie as well. The host then announces the end of the match and that the winner is Maro. Walking in the hallway, Maro meets Anna and is congratulated by her. Anna praises Maro's performance, telling him how he looked pretty awesome. Maro was not expecting to meet Anna on his way back to his room. Anna shares how impressed she really is and comes to Maro to personally tell him that she will fulfill their promise and forfeit the demon card. Maro already knows that Anna was planning to give it to him regardless of whether he had won or not. Not expecting her plan to be so obvious, Anna tells Maro that it was just a setup to fight against him. For Anna, Maro is the perfect opponent for the semi-finals. Unfortunately, Anna's plan backfired. Maro believes that it was just fair since he is a total nobody. However, Anna does not believe that Maro is just a nobody, but then takes it back and clarifies that she only thought of Maro as a nobody up until yesterday. Facing Maro in the arena, Anna admits how she was really caught off guard, as Maro proved to be totally different from what Anna had expected. Trying to piece her words, Anna can only comment that Maro gave off a different vibe and guessed that it was the reason why she lost. Seeing the sad look on Anna's face, Maro calls Anna by her last name, but Anna wants to keep things simple and suggests to Maro to just call her by her first name. Surprised, Maro asks Anna if she is sure. Taking up Anna's offer, Maro wants to reciprocate and tells Anna to just call him by his first name as well. This excites Anna, calling Maro her senpai. Anna was now looking forward to hanging out with Maro. Pulling out her phone, Anna asks Maro if he has Line and suggests that they exchange IDs. After giving Maro her contact, Anna tells Maro that she will be cheering for him in the finals before leaving. Maro can no longer contain his emotions, feeling so hyped as he finally got a girl's contact information for the first time. Returning to the tournament program, the host thanks the audience for their patience. After 3 days, the tournament has finally reached the finals. Win or lose, it all comes down to the match. The host is very much eager to know who will claim the prize, the Lady Vampire card. The contestants are now entering the arena, and the host then introduces the first candidate, Maro. The host once again shares Maro's background, only having 2 months of experience in being an adventurer but still managing to achieve a 2-star rating. Maro skillfully used a range from E to C rank cards, helping him in reaching the finals. For the finals, Maro is bringing his best lineup against Kanazuki. Turning the focus on Maro's finals opponent, the host shares how Kanazuki has shown overwhelming strength by dominating the matches from the first round up to the finals. Kanazuki used only 3D rank cards to get to the finals. Although Kanazuki is in the same grade as Maro, there's a nearly 3-year difference in their careers. The host wonders how the difference in experience and technique will play out. The host then asked for the 2 contestants to get their cards ready and summon them. Both contestants have summoned their best lineup for the finals match. Observing Kanazuki's lineup consisting of Cat Sith, Lizardman, and a Witch, Maro guessed that the Cat Sith and Lizardman are the D rank, and the Witch is the C rank. The ranks are lower than Maro expected, as he thought that Kanazuki would use 2 C rank cards. The host then shared a little background about Kanazuki, explaining how Kanazuki is registered with 4 C rank and 6 D rank cards. However, despite having many C rank cards, Kanazuki chose to go with a 1 C rank and 2 D rank combination for the finals. Maro was just surprised and speechless, listening to the host wonder if the lineup Kanazuki is using is truly his best lineup despite their ranks. Kanazuki tells Maro to not get the wrong idea, clarifying that there's no ulterior motive or anything behind his lineup. The 3 cards Kanazuki chose are truly his cards in every sense. Kanazuki just wanted to face the finals with all 3 of them. Kanazuki shared that the rest of his C rank cards are mementos of his dead brother. Seeing everyone fight with cards that they truly earned themselves, Kanazuki felt that using the cards he inherited didn't feel right. Understanding Kanazuki, Maro didn't expect his opponent to be surprisingly fair. Hearing that, Kanazuki chuckles and clarifies that if he had thought that he would lose without the inherited cards, Kanazuki would have put them in play without a second thought. However, Kanazuki did not do such a thing. Listening to Kanazuki only angered Maro more. Renka points out how Kanazuki is looking down on them and asks if Maro had pissed Kanazuki off or something. Maro asks Renka if she really thinks that he would do anything to others. When Maro asked if Renka did something in the last match, Renka responded that she did not. Renka then confirms with Maro if he understands what they wanted to do. Both Renka and Maro had the same thought of wanting to see how they could turn Kanazuki's smug face into a crying one. As soon as the host announced for the match to begin, Renka immediately went on the offensive. Wanting to kill Kanazuki and his team, Renka launched an attack even though Maro did not give out any order. Unfortunately for Renka, her attack was easily blocked. Maro becomes pissed that Renka's entire barrage did not work. Looking at the barrier, Maro recognizes it as a mid-level support spell. With Kanazuki taking his turn to attack, Maro decides to move as well, ordering Yuki to engage with the Cat Sith, while Eliza goes to the Lizardman. After the 2 monsters clashed, the Lizardman went ahead and proved that he is far stronger than Eliza, throwing her away. As soon as Eliza stood up, the Lizardman didn't give her an opportunity to dodge, hitting her right in the body. This attack knocked Eliza down. Shocked, Maro calls for Eliza's name. The disparity in physique was showing, which Maro believes means that Eliza needs support. Before Eliza could stand up, she again received an attack from Cat Sith. After slashing Eliza's arm, Cat Sith sensed an incoming attack from Yuki, which it then jumped away from. Yuki asks Eliza if she was alright. Yuki apologizes for not being able to back her up right away, as Cat Sith proved to be much quicker than Yuki. Maro was now getting frustrated, as he didn't expect Cat Sith to be fast enough to evade Yuki. Maro orders Renka to provide support, firing light projectiles at Cat Sith. As Maro asks Renka to use everything that she's got, Renka follows the order and releases multiple light projectiles. Knowing her ability, Renka smiles as she is certain that Cat Sith wouldn't be able to dodge it. However, Kanazuki thought that the attack was just way too easy. All of Renka's light projectiles were blocked, not even reaching Cat Sith. Both Renka and Maro were shocked after seeing the attack fail. Kanazuki praises Maro for trying and even thought that it was not a bad move. However, Kanazuki points out that he still has a witch to protect his other monsters. Maro was starting to get confused since Kanazuki and his monsters are acting way too organized, like they are a single being. From what Maro observed, Kanazuki has not given any orders yet. Maro was starting to wonder if the reason they are losing is simply because of a gap in skill. The host was getting excited just by watching the match and seeing how Kanazuki overwhelmed Maro. From what Shigeno observed, he believes that Kanazuki is already able to use the link and is using it flawlessly. Having no knowledge about the link, the host asks if it is some kind of technical term. Shigeno apologized and responded that if one is familiar with cards for a very long time, they can acquire a special connection to their cards. That connection is what the adventurers called a link. By establishing a link, the master can convey their thoughts to their cards and vice versa. The ability also allows the sharing of each other's senses. The ability dramatically increases a team's coordination. The host was totally clueless, not knowing such a skill existed. Listening to Shigeno, Maro knew that there was something fishy, and was certain that no training and experience could lead to that level of coordination. With his secret revealed, Kanazuki tells Maro that there's a big difference in skill between him and Maro. Believing that Maro has understood his place, Kanazuki suggests that he surrender already. Frustrated, Maro wonders if his run really would end in him losing. Without the ability to use Link, Maro is always going to be a step behind in giving commands. No matter how much Maro clings on, he is saddened to admit to himself that he will never be able to stand against Kanazuki. Maro was starting to lose hope, thinking how his cards were just struggling uselessly. Renka asks Maro if he actually thinks of surrendering. Calling Renka's name, Maro remained silent and listened. Renka could tell that Maro is already comparing his wealth and skills as an adventurer to Kanazuki, and points out that she didn't really care about it. But Renka voiced out her frustration and anger, telling Maro that she will never forgive him if his reason to surrender was because of their safety. Grabbing Maro's necktie, Renka tells him that if they lose, then it would be on them for being weak. As Maro's card, Renka would prostrate and apologize. For Maro to lose on his card's behalf, Renka couldn't accept it, and even thought that it wasn't right. Fixing up his tie, Maro understands what Renka is trying to convey, left with no other choice but just giving it a shot. When Kanazuki asks Maro if he still intends to continue, Maro responds that his cards are still raring to go. Kanazuki mentions how he was planning on avoiding killing Maro's cards, but was also placed in such a position to do so. Maro orders Yuki to use Instinct Awakening. Hearing the ability, Kanazuki was impressed that Maro's cards have such good skills. However, Kanazuki also pointed out that it also has its weaknesses. When the witch tries using Intimidation, this catches Yuki by surprise and forces her not to move. Instinct Awakening breaks when the monster is hit with a strong mental attack. Kanazuki thought that activating the skill was a blunder on Maro's part. However, to Kanazuki's surprise, Yuki was not affected by the witch's mental attack. Maro apologizes and tells Kanazuki that such a skill would not work against Yuki. Maro then orders Yuki to continue attacking Catsith and for Renka to provide support. While Yuki is busy trying to deal with Catsith, Kanazuki's lizard man tries to land a sneak attack. Maro then orders Eliza to protect Yuki, taking the hit. As the fight continues on, Maro sees that Catsith is targeting Renka. Realizing that his command won't make it in time, both Maro and Renka suddenly felt connected, which surprised the two. Noticing the danger behind her, Renka pushes the witch back. Staring at his hands, Maro couldn't believe what just happened. Turning to Maro, Renka was very proud and even already expected for her master to reach the realm of Link. With his new ability, Maro becomes hopeful and launches a counterattack. As the crowd went wild, Kanazuki remained in disbelief as he witnessed Maro using Link. Kanazuki then calls for his team, and with a single move, all of his monsters move independently. Kanazuki's tactic made both Eliza and Yuki react like he wanted them to. Annoyed, Renka tells her comrades to open their hearts to Maro since it is impossible for Maro to establish the link on his side. Following Renka's orders, both Eliza and Yuki immediately made a connection to Maro. Seeing the frozen Eliza, Catsith tries to take advantage but ends up regretting it. Eliza turns, dodging the attack and simultaneously countering by hitting Catsith with her knees. After being blown away, Catsith stood up and held his stomach. Grinning, Catsith believed that their plan had worked. Lizardman was about to land an attack, but Eliza saw through it. With no time to dodge, Yuki came to Eliza's rescue, grabbing her with his mouth. Meanwhile, Renka and the witch continued to exchange magical blows. To be able to block the witch's attack, Kanazuki couldn't help but be impressed. Maro knows that Kanazuki is still looking down on them, but still thanked him for the praise. Noticing how Maro shares his vision with his cards through Link, enhancing their reaction speed and coordination, Kanazuki was very impressed with Maro, who had awoken Link during their match. However, Kanazuki could also tell that Maro is not giving out commands. When Kanazuki's Lizardman snuck from behind, he noticed how Eliza noticed Lizardman. However, she didn't react to it and waited for help instead. Kanazuki believes that there was enough time to either dodge or counterattack, but Eliza only did nothing. That act confirms Kanazuki's theory that Eliza is not receiving any commands at all. When Kanazuki asked Maro if he was right, he received no response and took it that he was correct. At first, Kanazuki was caught by surprise, but in the end, the gap in experience between him and Maro is still proving to be the deciding factor. Since Kanazuki has been in the industry a lot longer than Maro, he points out how it would have been really embarrassing if he was overpowered despite Maro just learning how to use Link. Maro suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head, making him stumble. Maro felt his head was burning, comparing it to fatigue from an all-night study session, but multiplied by 100 times. Seeing Maro in pain, Kanazuki tells Maro that he can't blame him for that since sharing consciousness isn't as simple as it sounds. Kanazuki explains that the more connections Maro makes, the greater the burden that comes with it. Kanazuki shares how he had a fever for about 2 days when he first used Link. Kanazuki suggests to Maro forfeiting the match since pushing himself too hard might cause some problems later. Frustrated, Maro tells Kanazuki to shut up as he had no plans of accepting defeat. Hinting to Maro that he has a nosebleed, Kanazuki responds that he is not looking so hot. Closing his eyes, Kanazuki tells Maro that he will be nice and finish the match himself. Wiping the nosebleed off, Maro wonders why Kanazuki suddenly closes his eyes. To Maro's surprise, he saw Kanazuki's monsters exuding a powerful aura. Initiating the attack, Lizardman goes after Eliza while Catsith is on Yuki. Both immediately faced overwhelming pressure and were instantly knocked down. Renka calls for her friends as she witnesses how they are being pushed back. Unfortunately for Renka, she too received a serious injury from the witch's attack. Seeing Renka falling, Maro stretches his arms out as he tries to catch Renka. With Renka in his arms, Maro looked horrified and shouted Renka's name as he couldn't believe that his ace lost with just one shot. Seeing Renka not moving due to the big wound on her body, Maro immediately pulls out a bottle of potion and heals her. After pouring the potion onto Renka, it still wasn't enough to fully heal her. Maro felt a sudden pain in his head and saw Yuki filled with anger. Eliza starts eating her own arm to heal her own serious injuries. Kanazuki was very impressed with Eliza for having a self-regeneration ability using the Corpse Eater skill. However, if the target is the user itself, Kanazuki was certain that Eliza would not achieve a complete recovery. Kanazuki also points out that Yuki is out of control and is now running wildly. Meanwhile, Renka is beyond recovery. Stating those facts, Kanazuki once again suggested to Maro to just give up now. After being pointed out that he may lose all of his cards, Maro was just left speechless. Maro thought that fighting further would prove nothing. Maro starts to admit that the difference in capabilities was too obvious from the beginning, since he is dealing with a guy who has been an adventurer for 3 years, and is also an influential person. Thinking about it, Maro also knew that Kanazuki had been going easy on him since the beginning. If Kanazuki had used Link from the beginning, Maro wouldn't have been able to move even his feet. Thanks to Kanazuki, Maro wasn't trampled in full view of the public. Furthermore, Maro also gained the technique Link. The cards avoided being lost, and it was all thanks to Kanazuki's thoughtfulness. Maro mistook Kanazuki because of his looks and realized that Kanazuki is a nice guy after thinking about it. Facing all the facts, Maro has come to accept that Kanazuki was far more stronger. Maro was now weighing on giving up and letting Kanazuki have the championship, along with the demon card. As Maro thought that it was the end of his first tournament run, Renka covered his mouth before he could say that he would give up. Renka tells Maro that the fight is still not over and that she still can fight. This annoyed Maro and pointed out to Renka that if she fights further, then she would truly be lost. Renka smirks and guesses that she would truly die if she continues. Knowing that he is correct, Maro asks Renka why she would still go so far. Renka responds and tells Maro that he was trying to make excuses. Maro has tried convincing himself of his loss. Renka explains that if Maro accepts the loss, it will affect his life and would soon be habituated to losing. Maro may even lose in a place where he absolutely couldn't lose and would eventually become that kind of a guy. Renka asks Maro to remember that those who struggle until the very end, fortune doesn't smile at them. Calling Maro's name, Renka asks why he gave them names. Maro responds that he didn't want to lose all of them, which he then persuades Renka to also give up and end the match. It doesn't matter to Maro if he gets used to it, as he finds it much better than losing all of his cards. However, Renka didn't think the same way as Maro, as she believes that with his determination to not lose his cards, Maro should fight until the end. Even if they were to be lost, Renka tells Maro that they are not truly gone. For Maro, it was the same thing as long as they die once. What worries Maro is the fact that Renka and the others would still feel the pain and fear of dying even though resurrection is possible. Maro sets Yuki as an example, reminding Renka that Yuki was so scared of the thought of dying. Renka and the others have taught Maro that even cards are alive, which pains him to hear that Renka is telling him to let them die. Renka calls for Maro's name again, asking him if he knew that cards can refuse to be named. Having such a topic brought up confuses Maro. Renka explains that for cards like her, being lost doesn't mean dying. For them, losing means that they are simply returning to the Mother Sea. However, if they are to be named, they will remain bound to that master. If the card is reluctant, they can refuse to be named. Accepting a name is something that requires a great deal of determination for cards like Renka. Renka then points out that Mare may be an exception since she doesn't seem to understand much about the importance of names. Renka admits that she doesn't know what the masters of Maro's world think about naming and guessed that it was just a minor insurance. However, for Renka and the others, the name is proof that for the sake of their master, they are willing to do it no matter how many times needed. Hearing this, Maro clutched his chest and thought that he was once again fighting with flippant feelings and wasn't determined enough. However, Maro finally made a decision. Pulling out another bottle of potion, Maro tells Renka that even if every one of them is broken, he promises that he will revive them all back. Renka smiles as he tells Maro that he expected nothing less from his master. The bottle that Maro gave is called Amrita and has a selling price of 100 million, an item that is called the Elixir of Immortality. Maro thought selling it could help revive the cards if they were all wiped out in the worst case. Since Maro has the Amrita, he began to behave spoiled and thought that he could get his cards even if he were to lose. However, Maro chose to give the Amrita to Renka, allowing her body to fully recover from the injury. Even if Maro were to lose, he promises to revive Renka himself, and does not care if it would take many years or even decades since it was just a proper courtesy. All of a sudden, Renka starts glowing. In just a matter of seconds, Maro was also engulfed by the bright light. When things finally cleared up, Maro was first speechless, calling Renka's name to confirm if the being in front of him is truly his card. Looking at Maro and hearing her name being called out, Renka then realized why no one noticed it. Renka was certain that no one would use Amrita on a failed card unless they were just like his hopeless master. Maro then felt a sharp pain in his head and was shocked to see both Eliza and Yuki knocked out and bodies smeared with blood. Alarmed, Maro calls out Eliza and Yuki's names. However, Renka stops him and tells him to stay and to not worry. Smiling at Maro, Renka tells Maro to leave it to her. Renka then casted a spell called Rain of Amrita. A bright light suddenly rained down on Eliza and Yuki, as well as Maro. Maro felt the sluggishness and heat in his brain fade and wondered if it was the effects of the rain of light. Kanazuki was speechless as he recognized what was happening. Kanazuki then called his monsters' attention, giving them orders through Link. However, they were easily subdued by Renka with just one hand. Kanazuki could not believe how his monsters were easily pinned down by Renka alone. In a dire situation, Kanazuki knows that the spell used to pin down his monsters is a high-class offensive magic called Gravity, which he immediately uses a protection card to save his monsters. However, Renka was still not yet done. Renka proceeds to cast the spell Sea of Stars, which immediately engulfs the whole stadium with blue light. As stars were about to rain down on Kanazuki and his cards, he immediately used another card called Short Range Transition, which helped him and his team to move away from danger. With Renka's powerful attack creating so much chaos in the stadium, the whole place was then filled with dust. When things finally cleared up, Maro saw the whole stadium was in a wreck. Maro then realizes that Kanazuki and his team are now gone. Maro suddenly received a warning in his head telling him to crouch down since the enemy is behind him. Right at the moment that Maro crouched down, Cat Sith appeared and almost landed the attack. As Cat Sith faced Maro, it didn't expect that Yuki was at the back and ended up getting hit. To retaliate, Lizardman focuses his attention on Yuki, who was currently biting down on Cat Sith. Before Lizardman could fully swing his sword, Eliza came forward and stopped it. Holding onto the Lizardman's hand, Eliza used all of her strength and threw the Lizardman to the ground. Seeing this excites Maro and he thinks that there's only one left. Renka and the witch were now facing each other, casting powerful spells and pointing them towards each side. Both spells clashed, with the result being the spells splitting apart. However, Renka's spell proved to be more powerful and goes through the witch's spell. Seeing this, the witch realizes that she has lost and decides to just close its eyes. However, to the witch's surprise, Kanazuki got in between her and Renka's spell and blocked it using his barrier. Although Kanazuki successfully blocked the attack, he later saw how his barrier collapsed. With no more defensive abilities to use, Kanazuki smiles and gives up, accepting his defeat. Hearing this, the whole crowd was in shock. The host then announced that the tournament had reached its end with Maro as the victor. The host points out that as soon as Maro made Renka drink some potion, she transformed and brilliantly clinched the match. As the host was wondering what type of potion Maro gave, the host's attention was drawn to Shigeno, who found it ridiculous and seemed to know what the potion was. Shigeno still couldn't believe what he had witnessed, as it was the first time that a rank-up happened without using a card. When the host asks Shigeno if Maro's card achieved a rank up, Shigeno responded that Maro's card did, and had no doubts about it. Shigeno points out that the card in front of them is the B rank card, Lakshmi. Since they are in Japan, the appropriate name Shigeno believes for the card is Kichijoten. Shigeno had no clue that there were other ways of ranking up a card without using a high-ranking card. Shigeno believes that what they witnessed is a great discovery. The host continues to ask Shigeno what the conditions were and if the Amrita that was used a moment ago was part of the condition. The host could only be certain that Renka had the Fallen Existence skill. The host then calls for Shigeno as he was no longer responding. Staring at Renka, Maro calls for Renka's name and asks if she was truly Renka. In response, Renka asked Maro who else he was seeing. Trying to piece together his words, Maro explains that too much has changed for Renka, and even the tone of her voice. Both Maro and Yuki wonder and ask Renka if she remembers them. Hearing their doubts, Renka smiles and transforms to her old form, and tells Maro that she obviously remembers them. Renka asks for everyone to not react weirdly just because of a slight change in appearance. Maro was surprised, as he didn't expect that Renka could turn back to normal. Renka explained that it was because of the effect of a skill for the time being. Renka then tells Maro that she will explain the matter in detail later. The conversation was interrupted when Kanazuki approached their side. Kanazuki thanks Maro for giving an excellent battle. Maro responded, also thanking Kanazuki. Seeing Maro becoming polite again caught Kanazuki by surprise and pointed out that Maro was in such great spirit earlier. However, after the match ended, he is now a completely different person, unlike during the match. Kanazuki stretches his hand out, telling Maro that there's no need to be polite since they're the same age. Kanazuki tells Maro best regards, to which Maro also responds. Kanazuki shared how he was really caught by surprise and wondered what kind of trick Maro used. Maro responded that he too had no idea. When Kanazuki responded that they would soon find out, Maro was a little confused by what Kanazuki said. Kanazuki explains that things may get a little hard from now on before saying his goodbyes. As Maro remains confused, the host then calls for Maro's name, congratulating him on being the champion. As soon as Maro turned to face the people calling out his name, he was immediately bombarded with questions, asking what skill was used to make Renka transform. Others also asked if the potion that was used to make Renka transform was the Amrita. Other reporters also became intrigued in how Maro got a hold of the Amrita. Random questions were starting to get thrown into the mix, asking Maro if he had already eaten and if he has a girlfriend already. Maro could only close his eyes as he faced one of the struggles of becoming famous. Walking to school, Maro felt exhausted as he didn't expect that it would take a whole day for the inquiries and examinations. Maro was just glad that they treated it as a holiday, since it was requested from the guild. It allowed Maro to attend the end-of-term ceremony, but from what Maro can tell, even the winter break will be a mess. Maro notices a bunch of people gathering near the school gate. What intrigued him is that they are creating so much noise. Moving closer, Maro realizes that it is from a television network, interviewing students. Other students also noticed it and wondered why they were there. Another student explained that a student in their school won the Mancoli yesterday. This came as a surprise to others, and they wondered who it was. Hearing the commotion, Maro was certain that if he gets caught, it would be just like the day before yesterday, and thought that he would just use the back door. Entering the classroom, Maro greets everyone, making his presence known. To Maro's surprise, all of his classmates approached and congratulated him. Maro's classmates were amazed by his performance and were also curious about how he got Renka. Ono then got in between, trying to calm everyone down. Ono points out that if they ask Maro all at once, he wouldn't be able to keep up, and again asked for everyone to calm down. Seeing this, Maro could only mutter Ono's name. All of a sudden, Ono calls Maro's name and apologizes for oddly picking a quarrel with him before the tournament. With Maro confused, Ono explained that he became jealous of how Maro was doing so well and unexpectedly flared up and behaved weirdly. However, after watching the tournament matches, Ono felt truly moved. Witnessing a battle style which makes full use of skills and the bond one makes with the cards, what excites Ono more is the determination to fight, even if it means discarding everything. Ono shared how he too also wanted to become a professional in the future, which is why he has been secretly diving into the labyrinth. However, Ono couldn't make any progress, which frustrates him. Facing a roadblock, Ono came to Maro for help and hoped that Maro would not decline. Bowing his head, Ono asked for Maro to take him as his disciple. Maro was not sure how to feel, seeing how Ono changed his attitude already, even though Ono has been habitually so prickly. Shinomiya appears and tells Maro how it is a good thing. Shinomiya also points out how Ono seemed to be reflecting earnestly. Shinomiya admits that she doesn't know much about being a disciple, but suggested to Maro to call the incident settled. Listening to Shinomiya, Maro agrees, but he still had to think about accepting Ono as his disciple. Hearing this, Ono becomes pleased and thanks Maro, calling him master. Maro clarifies that he has not accepted Ono as his disciple yet. The teacher then walks in, asking for everyone to take their seats as homeroom is about to start. Ushikura also appeared, congratulating Maro for winning something incredible. Before leaving, Ushikura tells Maro that she will be rooting for him in the future. Summoning up the courage, Maro calls for Ushikura and asks if he could have a minute with her later. At an open area, Maro thanks Ushikura for coming. Ushikura responds that it's okay and asks Maro what he wants. With his voice being so low, Maro wanted to invite Ushikura. However, Maro's voice was just so low that she couldn't hear him and asked if Maro could repeat what he had said. To have his voice heard, Maro ends up shouting, asking Ushikura if she would like to spend Christmas with him. Ushikura was speechless and then muttered Maro's name. The scene shifts with Maro losing to Shota. Shota tells Maro that winning against an active adventurer, he felt terrified by his own talent. Yoichi already expected Maro to lose as they know that Maro is weak in competitive games. Yoichi is surprised that Maro was able to win the tournament at all. This pissed Maro off and he told Yoichi to shut up. Shota points out that Maro leans too much towards the romantic side with his deck and already expected that he would lose with that kind of approach. Maro asked for another match, but Shota refused and reminded Maro of their rule, which is that the loser needs to step out, as Shota tells Maro that next would be Yoichi and him. Yoichi then tells Maro that the loser should step aside promptly. Maro refused to abide by the rules and told the two that he will never give up. Seeing how Maro reacts, Yoichi asks if he is an elementary schooler. Shota points out to Maro that he went through the trouble of going through to be accepted into the normie group. He asks Maro if it is okay for him to hang out with them. Hearing this, Maro was confused. Shota also pointed out that it is now the long-awaited Christmas, and if it's alright for him to hang out with them and not with Shinomiya. Maro clarifies that they were the ones who invited him. Shota admits to inviting Maro, but he is just wondering if it's alright for Maro to hang out with them, even though he is now part of the normie group and even becoming an adventurer. Maro was starting to get puzzled at what Shota was trying to say, explaining that becoming a pro was for the sake of his future. Shota points out that Maro's answer is just a pleasant stance. The three have been hanging out together every day since they entered high school, and with that, Shota immediately grasps what Maro is thinking. As soon as Minamiya became an adventurer, Maro suddenly started working part-time. Shota couldn't hold his laughter as Maro's plan was so obvious. Shota shares with Maro that they were already aware of it long before Ono exposed Maro being an adventurer. After Ono exposed Maro's secret, he tried to apologize for hiding the matter from his friends. However, Shota and Yoichi blatantly tried to change the topic. That made Maro think that there was nothing to apologize for since they are friends. Trying to put it into words, Maro guessed that it would most likely be something like that. Shota then points out how Maro only wanted to become an adventurer so that he could get acquainted with Ushikura. Hearing that, Maro ended up choking and spitting out water from his mouth. Shota thought that since there are rumors floating around that Ushikura has the biggest chest in the whole school, not just their grade, Maro clarifies that he didn't just like Ushikura because of her chest. Putting it aside, Shota points out how Maro went through so much trouble to become an adventurer, even winning the tournament and becoming popular, but he is not showing any signs of pursuing Ushikura. Shota thought that Maro was holding back because of them and told him that it was fine, admitting that they kind of messed up in Minamiya's case. Maro hits Shota in the head, interrupting what he was about to say. Maro calls Shota an idiot and tells him that he feels more comfortable hanging out with them. Shota mutters Maro's name as he felt touched by what he said. Shota then teases Maro, asking him if he loves them more than his crush. This annoyed Maro, and he ended up putting Shota in a chokehold. Unbeknownst to Shota, Maro already got rejected. When Maro asked Ushikura out, Ushikura tells Maro that she will be hanging out with Katie and the others for Christmas. In his match against Shota, Yoichi was disappointed as he lost the game. As the three felt themselves getting bored, they suggested heading out to a karaoke bar or bowling. Hearing their exciting plans, Maro couldn't wait to stay up all night and play. Maro's friend then points out how he is quite eager today. The others suggested that they visit their home after they finish playing in town and purchase some snacks and juice. Suddenly receiving a message, Maro immediately apologizes to his friends and tells the two that he will be leaving. Both Shota and Yoichi were surprised by Maro's sudden decision. Maro then reveals the reason, showing a message from Shinomiya, inviting him to join their karaoke session. Reading the message, the two were baffled. The two then told Maro to stop screwing with them, calling Maro a treacherous bastard. They asked Maro why he is trying to slip out alone and make a harem of himself, telling him to invite them as well. The two threatened Maro to not get carried away just because he became an adventurer. Getting pressured, Maro asked the two for a timeout. It suddenly occurred to Maro that those several turbulent months were the most intense of his life. Putting it frankly, Maro admits that he is not the center of it all, and guessed that it may be Renka. Maro drew Renka and the others in one shot. Maro and his team also encountered the Pied Piper of Hamelin. The next is obtaining an Amrita. This continued with Ono finding out about Maro being an adventurer and even his decision to enter the tournament. Maro also thought that everything that had happened may have been all part of the flow for Renka to regain her original power. Maro thought that he may have been overthinking. Maro becomes nervous after hearing his friends' voices, asking him to come out or they would strip him naked. With his friends very close, Maro stood up as he believed that he may end up getting discovered. Maro is certain of only one thing, and that he will continue to be an adventurer. Maro no longer cares about class caste or being a normie, as he plans to continue adventuring in the labyrinth together with Renka and the other cards. Meanwhile, Anna steps out of the car, arriving at Maro's school. Anna commented how the school seemed more like an ordinary school than what she expected. Visiting Maro, Anna hopes that Maro will wait for her. That is the end of the recap at Chapter 28. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.